All right. We are back. We are back. I got Mr. Moorhead Wild Man with me. This is episode 8. Here we are. We're almost hitting double digits. We're getting close.
We're chugging along. I think they say most podcasts don't make it to episode 8, so we got the first step.
We're cruising, baby. We're cruising. No. So
what are you drinking tonight? I saw we just drank at the same time on accident.
We did. It was very nice. A nice sip while we're
little high west.
Little high west, but this stuff is cask strength, and it is barreled for one of the liquor stores specifically. Down here, it tells you it was barreled
store choice.
Yeah. So, anyways, pretty good. This one is sitting at 59.9.
Not bad.
No.
I'm not going with any barrel proofs tonight. I just got a standard. I'm going with Redbreast 12, which has been the barrel proof version, has been my favorite whiskey of late.
Yeah.
But the nice smooth drinker, keep it light tonight.
For sure. Yeah, no. It's interesting for me. I haven't had a sip after surgery, so now it's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're starting off here.
Yeah, we're gonna get right into that, but before we do, I would like to give a shout out to Jerry Caro's family. The paintball world had lost a really great guy a couple days ago, and it's hard. It's hard when you lose people young before they're supposed to, especially people full of energy and excitement like Jerry was. I know he's touched a lot of people. It's hard to deal with death for a lot of people, and it's all the people that you leave behind, because once you're gone, we kind of talked about it earlier in a different light, but once you're gone, so your worries go away, but it's the pain and the pressure and all that stress that gets put on everyone that you cared about, right? So that's difficult, and I just do want to just put out my heartfelt, sincere best wishes to his family and his friends who are going through this. I know him as a fierce competitor and someone full of emotion, and he could funnel good rage on the paintball field. He was electric to watch, and he was really fun. But I didn't know him like a friend. I knew him in passing. We had brief conversations here and there, but obviously we're in the same circle. The professional paintball community is really small, and it's going to feel the ripples throughout anytime you lose someone that you're so close with. So I did want to also shout out Harris Hussein and New York Extreme had started up a GoFundMe for his family to help them deal with these tough times. So if anyone has the means or capabilities or knows Jerry or any of the people he touched and want to help out there, if you search his name under GoFundMe, that will go to a good cause. It's nice for families dealing with really the unfathomable. I couldn't imagine losing a child, and when you become a parent, it hits home a little sooner, because it's not the natural way of life. You're supposed to grow old and die, and they're supposed to continue your legacy. So I can't even imagine what they're going through. But taking some of the financial burden off of them, if you have the means, is a great thing to do. So just wanted to mention that. Like I said, there's unfortunately not much to be said. I don't have, outside of my playing against him and seeing him, I don't have a lot of close or good stories to really tell about it. So I don't think we're going to focus on a lot of that this episode, but I did want to just, make it known, the paintball community, we all care about the same things, do the same things, love the same things. So when one person's hurt, we're all hurt. And, they're trying times. And I think it's also important to mention, life can be fickle, right? When nothing's promised, the next breath isn't promised, the next day isn't promised, the next year isn't promised. So try not to live with any regrets, try not to be selfish with your time. If you care about someone, reach out to them. A lot of times people internalize struggles and stuff. Not saying that that's what happened with him, but sometimes people just need need people to reach out to them. Just because they haven't reached out to you doesn't mean that it wouldn't mean the world to them to reach out. So when you think about people, make an effort to speak with them, talk with them, grow that connection, because you never know when it's going to be your last time, and you don't want to live with the regret of that.
Amen to that. And to chime into that, obviously saying prayers for families and friends for him right now. Most people don't know all my background, and that's okay. I'm really coveted on that. But what I will say is I've more than enough dealt with people going too soon. And I just want to say to everyone, don't let your hard days win. Yep. Like, we're going to have hard days ahead of us. Mm-hmm. Asking questions like why, and you're just beside yourself. Don't feel like you're in it alone, and don't let your hard days win, because from what everyone has said about Jerry, he wouldn't want you to lose. Mm-hmm. He wants you to go forth and conquer. But from what, I didn't know him. Mm-hmm. I just saw him play on the field, right? But if you are struggling, if you're having a hard time, you need someone to talk to. Like, the door is always open. I know you may not know me, but I'm a very good listener. And if that's all you need for someone, like if you just need someone to listen to you, yeah. My door is always open. You can always contact me. Cut them down how. I run the Rowdy Ones page as well. You can reach out to us there. But no one's in this alone. So
yeah, and I do like to look at things with different perspectives, right? And I know the perspective talk and different opinions has been pretty beaten to death over the last few weeks in paintball alone. But what I'm talking about is struggles in general, when no matter how hard of a time you might be going through, struggling with whatever you're struggling with, work, drugs, family, stress, health, there are better times ahead. There are some worse times too, but there's peaks and valleys in everything you do. And I try to think of it like, no matter how, your worst moment is always going to be your worst moment, and your best moment's your best moment until that changes. But so like someone who's lived like the most cushy life that's never had any problems still has a worse moment, and that still hits them the same hardness, right? Yeah. So you have to remember all the other people that are struggling in a plethora of different manners that they would maybe dream to be in your situation at your lowest, because that's better than that. And you hear so many success stories and really inspiring things that come out of deep and dark times, right? Like sometimes the best results come through those rocky roads to get there. So it's like, just always try to look at things from different perspectives, not like a woe is me perspective or like, why is this happening to me? But like, what can I do to take that first step to making it better? Because sometimes like I'm a procrastinator at heart. So sometimes it's the thinking about it that weighs on you the hardest. But when you are able to take that first little step of action, no matter how big or how small it is, it kind of steamrolls from there, and it becomes easier and easier. And then your gains and whatever we're talking about just grow, exponentially. So it's looking at it with the best positive light you can, and then proceeding forward to grow individually, as a team, as a family, however you want to, but to become a better version, and to make your situation better no matter how it is. And that's obviously sounds easier than it is, because words are always easier than actions, but it really does boil down to just, taking that, the minutest of first steps to be able to take the next step, because you're already one little bit above where you were. And every little bit that you can become better, the easier it becomes. And like a lot of times with like, and this is harder, done than said too, but try to take as much negativity out of your life as you can, because
Yeah.
the more you dwell on a small situation or do this, it can seem crippling.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's just a trial and tribulation and a struggle that you get to face and you get to conquer, and you become stronger and better from that. And then I think that, like, leans into a lot of what you've been dealing with lately. You just finished up your surgery with getting your plate removed from your leg. Uh, they found out that that was pressed against some of your nerves, so that was
Yep.
in addition to having a foreign body in you, that was causing more pain and more
Mhm.
stress. So I was super happy that you made that leap and the faith
Thanks.
to go through the surgery to do that, because that's not an easy decision either, because it is a very invasive surgery anytime they're removing plates and screws from you, because your bone is calcified around that, healed with that.
Mhm.
And so to get that out isn't an easy process, and you're going to
Yeah.
put yourself through pain, and you're doing that, but
Yeah.
you're doing it with the notion that it will be better in the long run.
Right.
Some
Yep.
pain now for some promise of betterment in the future.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and I know you're on the mend. I mean, we don't if we weren't talking about it, I don't think anyone would notice. I can, speak on the phone, seeing your face, like you're in
Yeah.
good spirits.
Yeah.
I think you approach that in such a good way. But I would like to hear your perspective on that, like the struggles of making that decision, what you were
Yeah.
going through beforehand, what finally was the final nail in the coffin that made you take that leap, and then from there, like, obviously, like how the surgery went and how your recovery is going. I think it's all interesting, because I do think, like, any of this, whether you're talking about struggle and pain or struggle and work or this, it's like you can take lessons from that and apply it to different avenues in life.
Yeah. So, I originally I broke this, I don't know, 11 years ago, roughly, give or take a few. Um, I had a spiral fracture in my tibia, really close to my ankle. The plate was actually over my ankle. Um, it's a 10-inch plate. It's quite impressive. Bigger than I thought it was, to be honest, once I got it. Because they let me keep my hardware, so I was pretty excited about that. But there was a 10-inch plate, and I thought it was stainless, but apparently it's titanium. It's shiny as all get out. Looks brand new after they cleaned it up. So titanium plate, titanium screws. 8 screws were put in course correlation with the plate, and they were only able to remove 2 without really having to go into extensive surgery work. Basically, bore those screws out is what they would have to do. But then you possibly risk refracturing, and then you get another plate and all that. So at that point, the doctor made the decision: we're taking out what we can. We're going to leave in the other 6. They cut the heads off, pulled the plate out, smoothed them all down, and just going to let my body grow over them. So, we had concerns of it being in there for so long. If I knew hindsight 2020, right, I would have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
I would have had this taken out a long time ago. Never would I think, and that just goes
And
to
you needed it. It's not like it's like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this. Like, when you're dealing with spiral fractures, the way the bone is like separating as it's twisting
yeah.
apart, like that's the only way you're getting something like that to heal, right? So
Oh yeah.
it was a necessary step, but like you said, like you were dealing with thinking that you were just living with the outcome of that, but knowing that in the long run you could have had that removed a while ago.
Yeah, I could have done it 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Been golden, got all the screws out. Right, when something's in your body that long, your body is way more stronger than you ever expect it to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I mean, I have, 3 plates and 12 or so titanium screws in my jaw holding it together for 15 years.
Yeah.
I've had a couple titanium pins in my elbow since I was in 5th grade. So like, I'm part robot with you. I
I
get
know,
it.
right?
I get it.
I know. Real quick, not to small time out. Can you hear my AC going? Because I have a portable AC up here. Can you hear that in my mic?
I'd have to pay so much attention. You're good.
Okay. Cool. Because if it was, I was going to turn it off and just make it a sweat box. The second
No,
floor
no,
up
no,
here,
not worth the sweat.
south
Not-
facing windows, dude. This thing just hot. 8,000 foot elevation. Also, the
yeah,
heat
yeah,
in the
yeah.
sun is totally different. But anyways, so back to where I was. Surgery went really well. No
So
refracturing.
what led you to that final decision to get it? Because like you said, you wish you would have
Yeah,
done it a few years ago. You're
yeah.
obviously dealing with. Did the pain increase, or was it just nagging more over the time? Like
More increased pain daily,
mhm.
right?
That's
And
another thing I think a lot of people probably don't know when you have like foreign bodies
yeah,
inside of you.
yeah,
Your body deals well with it until it doesn't. Your body can actually eventually your immune system and
want it.
stuff can find it and want to reject it. And then
Yeah.
you but once you're to that point, you can start, getting sepsis and other issues
Hmm.
and you're almost too late to make that decision there because it feels like it's something that your body needs to get
Yeah.
out and it tries to start expelling it itself.
Yeah. So, like you said, they found it was over a nerve. So whenever I would go on a run, every heel strike, you would just feel a shooting pain up through like I would feel it up through my tibia.
And they didn't know that it was on the nerve until they got in there, I assume,
Yeah,
right?
they
Yeah.
had no idea
Yeah. So
because
when you're feeling that pain, you're thinking it's just
it's
however your
just there.
bone healed around it, and it's just something. Yeah.
So, you know, I uh I ended up um I was doing that, and every day, like I do a lot of manual labor. I work in heavy equipment. I do a lot of stuff like that for a living. Anytime I squatted down and stood back up, shooting pain, and so I was like, all right. I was like, and I'm a little bit fatter than I want to be, and anytime I'd be in the gym, I'd be like, oh my gosh, the pain is just ridiculous. Sorry, my dog is losing
Oh,
it.
you're good.
Um,
Pet, Pets are good for the soul, so they
yeah,
can lose it every once in a while.
yeah. The wife just got home, so she's excited. Thank you, sweetie. Um, so the could you shut the door? Love you. Thank you. Sorry guys. So anyways, it was just like, okay, this is becoming a daily problem. It's time to buck up. All my surgeries, technically this would be an elective surgery,
Yeah,
right?
and that's a leap of faith too, because there's no
Yeah,
guarantee that getting that out's going to fix it.
no.
Yeah.
Well, and he even said there's a chance if we do something to the nerve, you could have this fire feeling or numbness in the bottom of your foot. This could be a situation. And I'm like, well, I'm already kind of dealing with that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the surgeon I went to in Texas, he was one of the top specialists in lower. So technically, even though it was on the tibia, what's funny is they called it foot ankle. So, because it was so low into the tibia where the break was. So I called him up and I said, hey, I was like, I can't come to you. You're not in my insurance, or else I would have just went back to my original doctor and let him have at her. But I would have flown to Texas for him. He's amazing. But doctor I went to here in Colorado, Stedman Clinic, they work on all the Olympians. Like they are very, very well tuned, very good organization. They have some of the top doctors in the U.S. as well, so it's great. But anyways, they what was it? He told me I would go to these three doctors in Colorado, and I said okay. So I trust him. So I went over there, and you can kind of, when you've had to deal with enough doctors, you can really fill out a doctor and be like,
Mm-hmm.
are you confident?
Oh yeah.
Like when they walk in the room and how they talk to you and stuff, they're super cool.
It
Like
kind of
they
goes back into what
understand.
we talk about with paintball a lot. It's confidence you're looking for too, not cockiness. Because I've had doctors
Yeah,
that kind of lean too far into the cockiness side of things and just tell
yeah.
you that they're amazing, they're the best. And you're like, no, I want the truth, but I want
Well,
you to feel like I want I want to believe that you're going to do the best of your ability in that.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing is like a great doctor is never going to say they're the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's fun doctor advice if you ever have to go to a specialist. If you find one that says, "Oh yeah, I'm the best in the state," oh good lord. But if you ever have to go to a specialist and they say they're the best, walk out of that office because that is not how that shakes down. So, great doctors know they're great and they have a reputation, so they don't have to feel like they have to compensate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was, there was a few moments when I let my thoughts get into my head, and I got nervous for a split second, and I'm like, I've been on an operating table 12 times. I'm like, I'm good. Like, this is nothing different. It's just elective. I'm choosing this surgery. That's the only difference. And I'm like, I was like, it's fine or it's not, and you're not gonna wake up if it's not. We had this conversation today. My wife in my first surgery, I had to have a hernia repaired because when I
The first
was
one she was around for.
yeah, the first one she was around for. Thank you. My wife had never been through a surgery with me, and I uh, I had to get my hernia repaired. So I originally had double hernia surgery at 6 years old. So when you're a kid, they can't put any mesh or do a muscle repair. They just literally have to push it in and sew it up. And then usually those fail because they can't restructure all that correctly, right? So she goes, "Are you nervous?" I was like, "I'm either going to wake up or I'm not. And if I don't wake up, I'm like, I was like, it's good. Like, it's okay."
And that's
I
not
mean,
something your loved one wants to hear. But I think if they think about it, it is because they know that you're at peace with it. You have to
peace.
make this
Yes.
decision. You have to do it. But like,
Yes.
it's not that like I don't care if I'm gone. Like it's like if I'm not leaving you. It's just
It's
like this is out of my
accepting.
control now. It's out of my control
Yeah.
now, and I have to be willing to go through this and take this chance.
Yeah.
And it is a chance. I mean, modern medicine is amazing, so there's nothing to take away from that. But
Yeah.
like, there's a reason anesthesiologists get paid so much money because it is
Yeah.
extremely fickle and extremely dangerous. And the reality of the situation is anytime you get put under for a surgery, elective or non-elective,
Yep.
there is a risk. There is a risk to it how your body
Major.
reacts to
Yeah.
that. So I think it's a fair question on Natalie's part, and
Yeah.
I think it's a good answer on your part, but like in the moment, I'm sure it's like, how could you say that? Like,
Yeah. But, there's got to be, and I know if you do pass away on the operating table, right, that is a very hard thing for the people you leave behind. But there's also a
anytime you pass
solace.
away, anytime,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, anything, any form or fashion, right? There's mourning, and that's what mourning is.
Yeah,
It's our selfish wants because we
yeah.
want them here with us.
Mhm.
But those people that pass away are at peace now.
And
There's no,
honestly, the only time you really can mitigate the mourning is if you maximize the suffering beforehand. Because the only time you're really at peace when someone
yes,
dies is because you see the pain and suffering that they're going through and you don't want them to go through it any longer. You see,
yeah,
the long drawn out struggle, of old age and different
hmm,
diseases and different things like that while your body's failing, but your heart's still strong and it's still fighting to keep you alive, but your body's like failing around it. And
yeah,
then or like even something like Alzheimer or like something like that, where like, their
cancer,
wits aren't around them, cancer.
yeah,
It's like, that's the
They're-
only time where like death becomes easier on the people that are left behind.
yeah,
But
because there's no more suffering.
Exactly, because it's like you are ready for it because you can't
Yeah.
see them suffer anymore. And
Yeah.
and that's why any other time it's not right. So like if you really think about it, it's like you want it to be hard on the people that you leave because then it was easier on the person that actually passed. Because if it was easier on the everyone that's left, that means they went through hell and back to get to that point, to get to you to be okay with them not being there.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it, the way I see it.
Yeah, and I mean that's just a fact of the vicious circle. We're not getting out of here alive. You know, it's with all the people that I've had pass, you know, it's it's never easy. It's never easier.
Mhm. And
It's
we've
the
kind of had
same.
those conversations about,
Yeah.
like as an athlete, you kind of need to feel invincible at times, and it's
Yeah.
moments that completely tear that veil away and
Yeah.
show the truth of the situation.
100%. But yeah, I think that's suffering, mortality. It's the way of life, you know. Nor would I want to live on this world forever, to be honest. That just doesn't seem like that much
That's its
fun. I just
that's
want
its
to,
own form of suffering.
yeah, that's a suffering in its own. Um, but that just it proves the point that you need to pick the positive out of every little thing every single day. Because guess what? If you look at it, every day you wake up, you go to work, you do this, you do that. Is that great? No. But are there great things inside of those? Yeah. If you hold on to the negative, your day is bigger.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
you hold on, to the positive, your day is full of greatness.
Yeah.
And those are the things you got to leave behind and be willing to leave behind, because if you don't, then I mean,
Yeah.
you're not really living.
Yeah, you don't want to
I've
you don't want to let stress build upon more stress, and so like you don't want to sit in traffic and get so mad about that when you get to work or something and you spill something and then you have to clean that up and that adds to it and now you just keep thinking, why did these things keep happening to me? It's like,
Yeah.
to me, that's like one of the worst things you can say to yourself. Like, why me? Why this?
Why
Why
me?
this?
Oh, it's
Because
the
then
worst.
you just keep thinking
It's
that
negative.
yeah, it's negativity, and negativity is cancer,
And it's a
But if you
trash.
think,
No offense. It's a trash thought
yeah,
process.
yeah. But I feel
If
like,
it,
but if you're in traffic going to work and you're like, well, everyone else is in it too. That's just the way it is, Then you get there and you spill something and you go, oh, that's going to take me 2 seconds to clean up, and it makes no difference in the long run of things. And then
yeah,
you can drop off all the minutia and really focus on like real struggles.
yeah. Focus on the big things,
But the
like your
big things become
goals.
harder to focus on when you make a big deal out of the little things.
Well, it's like I said. Don't let the hard days win.
Yeah.
Because put them in your rear view mirror and don't look back.
And don't
Because
let a
it's not
hard
what
little
matters.
moment and don't let a hard little moment make your whole day bad.
Exactly. We
Every second is a new
choose.
second that we can do something new with.
That's right. And we choose our fates, right? The bad moments, what's funny? You can find such great success out of bad moments, but it depends on your mindset and how you look at things. Because, that those bad moments in your life can lead to greater moments that build you into something amazing. But you have to choose that. And it's not easy, and it's hard, and it's a struggle. But I guarantee you, on my bad days, I still got a smile on my face.
And it does become easier because it
It
becomes a
does.
habit. Anything that becomes a
Yes.
habit. That's why things are addicting, good and bad, right? When you
Yep.
make something a habit, it becomes easier. That's just a fact of it. We're habitual creatures that want to keep our consistency around us. So if you make bad thoughts and negativity a habit,
Oh.
that'll become you. But if you
Mhm.
slowly start breaking out of it, it becomes easier and easier.
Oh yeah. 100%. It changes your mentality. So yeah. Don't let the bad little things win, because guess what? They're not that big of a deal. You know.
So for sure. So with your surgery and your recovery, I mean, I see that you're obviously on crutches, mostly
Yeah.
bedridden. You told me that you feel like you're in Groundhog's Day, and it's going to be like that for a little more. But I, since we've been talking, tonight I've already seen you go down the stairs twice on your crutches. So that's, I
Yeah.
assume, a big improvement. I mean, that has to be a
Yeah.
new thing you're doing right now. So
Um, um,
what's your prognosis for the future here?
oh man, I'm great. Today is a week from surgery, right? I had it on the 15th. So we're a week out, doing great. I have another week and a half basically before my post-op visit for clearance for light duty and stuff like that. But I'm feeling good. After day 3 on day 4, I took no form of oxycontin, or not oxycontin, oxycodone. So I had the I kicked that on day 4, and then did Tylenol day 4, and then after that I haven't done anything. So I'm not on Tylenol, ibuprofen. I'm doing good, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's luckily I do have a very high pain tolerance. So
And
um
a history of dealing with pain as well.
yeah,
Not saying that it ever
pain
makes it better, but
yeah. Pain is formed in a place that's in your mind.
mhm. I mean, it's
And
there, but you're
it's
right.
there, but if you have a mindset and a hardened mindset to it, what's nice is that it does seem to help a lot whenever you have those bad pains. Sure, there was
This is going to sound ridiculous, but like I've had a lot of pain in my life too, and like physical pain, and
yeah.
man, sometimes you can almost get a sense of comfort out of it
Yeah.
because when you see the small improvements, and it's like you always feel it, but like when it breaks out of the thing where it's like constantly in your mind, where it's the only thing you can think about, and you feel your
Yeah.
heartbeat in the exact injury to where that slowly dimmers down. It's like you can feel a comfort and know your body. Like
Yeah.
I'm the same as you, where I don't like pain pills really, for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were, overprescribed for a long time, which led to the drug epidemic we've had in our country now, and,
Oh
and
yeah.
a lot of the suffering in small towns and things. But outside of that, it hides what's truly happening. So, like for me, I want to feel it if I can deal with it. There's times you can't, right? And you just
Yeah.
need something to get a couple hours of sleep because during sleep you're healing so much more than when you're awake and things like that. There are times where you need it, but as soon as you don't need it, it's so important to break away from it because you want to
Yeah.
feel what's going on. Like for me, like I never play paintball on anything like that, whether it's muscle relaxers because of my
Yeah.
back or like, a painkiller because I have something that's injured because I want to know, I feel like I know my body. So
Yeah.
I want to be able to push it to its limits within the injury that I'm dealing with and know where I have to stop and
Yeah. Because
not
you go
and
ahead.
not be dulling it and
Yep.
and risk actually severely injuring it more or extending the time frame of the healing of it because that's what those things do. They dull your senses, right? It's
And you don't know if you're overdoing it.
like nerve pain, like
Yeah.
anyone can relate to a toothache, I'm sure, right?
Right.
It can be excruciating,
Yeah.
but there'll become a point in time, even if it's completely bad, where your tooth's decaying and it's so bad where like the air is hitting it, it feels like you're getting stabbed in the face. Even that pain will
It's
go away on its own because that
yeah.
nerve will die. That doesn't mean the thing isn't bad in there anymore. It's just that your body
Right.
learned how to deal with it. So you don't want to hide the feeling if you can manage it. That's not always the case. Like I've
Yeah.
definitely, have had things where I've had to, use it as a crutch for a little bit until I could get away from it. But if you don't absolutely need it, I think it's important to let your body, heal on its own and feel how it's healing and understand its limitations. And
Hmm. Yeah. And even ibuprofen and Tylenol, you take that stuff correctly in correlation with each other time wise, that can be actually just as effective as the opiates that they hand out today. Now, the problem with it is
yeah, they
what
call
happens
something.
if
There's
you're feeling,
some cocktail of it where it's like called a poor man's Vicodin, where it's like mixing an ibuprofen
yeah,
with an aspirin at some level.
yeah. And so the problem with those kind of things is, man, you just don't know where you're at. And you're like, I'm feeling great. Put me in, coach. I can go play again. And then you end up like you had a partially torn ACL or maybe a calf muscle. Something was partially torn. You go out, you're feeling great. You go rip it out entirely. And it's a full tear now. Now you have a problem.
Yeah. Same thing with like back pain, because I will throw out my back every once in a while and stuff and have lower back issues. But that's like, your spine is such a fragile issue containing your whole nerve core. And it's like when your back's hurt, there's a reason for it. So like you don't want to necessarily take a muscle relaxer and a pain pill and then overuse it. You want to feel those things, because when it's tightening up and giving you that sharp jolt, that's the limit. Like, hey, don't move past here. Something bad could happen. And if you're not feeling that, you will move past it.
Yeah, exactly. I think people are too scared of pain. Now, I'm not saying people are weak. They've been told their whole life, hey, if you feel pain, take this, take that, take this. And there is a mindset, and it sucks.
Pain sucks. There's no doubt about it. The pain sucks.
You know what's crazy? The best way I can describe it, I had a shooting hot fire pain in my toes. Like it was literally through the bones, not the nerves. It felt like in the bones.
Yeah.
Literally just on fire, the sharpest pain. And I would be asleep in the middle of the night. And luckily we have a big king bed that's a split king that's fully adjustable. So on my side, I would sleep with my legs raised so I could keep them raised up, stay on my back, And that sucked. Like, I mean, that was, what's funny? I think that might have been more painful than anything I dealt with on my break, my actual break.
I was going to say, it's weird how pain works like that, because I've always looked at it like a medium to a medium high level of pain is the worst kind of pain there is. Because once you go to the extreme side of it, like when you have a real gnarly injury happen, your body dumps so much adrenaline and other things into you that
love adrenaline.
You become so clear and so like just oriented on the task at hand and knowing like, hey, I need to get this fixed. Your arm could be hanging off, whatever. You'll grab it, you'll hold it, and like your mind is processing quickly. You're just dealing with it. Your body instantly, through thousands of years of evolution, knows how to deal with these horrible situations. But it's those like, on the pain scale, which I hate that doctors do too, because some doctors like, oh, what's your pain on scale 1 to 10? And if you don't give them a super high number, they don't treat you the same. But if you give them like to me, like 10 is like, I can't live. Yeah. And 1 is like, it doesn't hurt at all. So like everyone's scales are differently too. But on my scale, like a 4 through an 8's almost worse than a 9 through a 10. Now a 9 through a 10 is going to put you through more time of 4 and 8 later. But in that moment, your body can actually handle those extreme situations better than you'd ever expect.
Yeah.
It's almost like clairvoyant in those times. But it's those other times, those like average pain things that can be the most annoying, which is why turf toe's bad, or a toothache's bad, or a paper cut hurts, or like, like you pull a hangnail and you can feel like the throbbing in it and you're sleeping and you're like, well, that's weird. And like those pains are almost more aggravating than something extreme at the moment.
Exactly. It's when your body goes into shock. Too much shock is bad.
Shock's pretty crazy.
Shock. When you go into shock, man, you're good. You're like,
you're so task oriented. You know you're not good, but you know exactly what you need to do to get it taken care of, because you know you need it taken care of.
So, super fun short story. This was actually the break, right? I was dating this chick at the time, broke my leg. And I'm like, everyone's like, bro, that's bad. You need an ambulance. I was like, I'm not going in an ambulance. I was like, I'm not going. I'm not taking an ambulance ride.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to get you an ambulance. I said, I got my own vehicle. I'll take the vehicle. They're like, dude. I was like, I got my girlfriend with me.
You will
I
make
was
some
like,
bad decisions in shock too.
oh
I'll tell
yeah,
you that.
oh yeah, it
I've
gets
seen
better.
people try to walk on broken legs and then
Oh, I walked on mine.
turn. Well, yeah. Did you turn your spiral fracture into a compound spiral fracture because of it?
Luckily not. Luckily not.
I've seen that happen after
I made
car
one
wrecks. You should
step and
go
I
up.
felt 3 pieces move. I felt all 3 pieces hit each
Yeah,
other and glide, and I was like, "Ooh!" I was like, and then I
yeah,
kind of crumpled to the ground.
yeah.
But, and they were like, "Okay, we'll let you go if she drives you." I was like, "All right, cool." I go there, and she I was at the hospital, and she had some big thing planned that evening, and left. Said, "I've got other things to do. I'm gonna go." And I said, "Bye, don't call me."
Yeah.
And I looked at the nurse and I was like, "Hey, we'll go out sometime." Bad time. But I drove myself home. Not
Yeah.
saying it was the right thing to do,
No, definitely
but like
not.
I was like, I'm good. I was like, throttle. I was like, I can run the clutch here. I was like, I can run the clutch and do everything with my one foot. I was like, I'm good. I drove 30 minutes home.
Yeah, that's no good. I'm surprised
Oh,
they
it
let
was
you.
they were like, "You ever ride?" I'm like, "Yeah, wheel me out here." And I had crutches. And I
Yeah,
was
but a
like,
lot
"Oh,
of
she'll
times
be
they'll
right."
make you get picked up and like
Yeah,
fee and
no,
have someone sign you. That's pretty wild.
it was nuts. I talked him into it.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, y'all don't need to stand here." I was like, I was like, "If they're going to be here, it's going to be a minute. I don't want to be in the hospital anymore." I was
Yeah.
like, "It's all right. It's all good. I got a ride." "Oh, are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm positive." And they let me drive. And well, they didn't let me drive home.
No, yeah.
They didn't know. I got in those crutches and I got out of there real quick. I am good on crutches. I had an experience today. So that was that story. What was crazy was I was supposed to go up to Alaska and be up there for 6 months in Alaska. And I had a phone call the next day that I had to make. And it was literally um, uh, a call. The next day was a scheduled meeting call for it. And yeah, I had to tell him, dude, I spiral fractured my leg last night. I'm not gonna make it. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, anyways, crazy turn of events, but it was it's a cool story. Not a lot of people actually know that. I haven't really
Yeah.
told that part to many people, so it's fun. But um, it's life is what you make of it. That's one of those situations, right? I could have been like, woe is me. My
Mhm.
girlfriend left me. And I was like, well, actually, I didn't even go home. I went to my buddy's house. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I need a drink. I was like, you want to have a drink? He was like, hell yeah, dude.
So I assume they just did the x-rays there, kind of splinted it, and then set up a surgery for a later date.
Yeah, like an A splint. They did
Yeah.
an A splint for me,
Yeah.
and which not supportive at all. Because when you
No.
stand up in an A splint, it's like,
No.
it's great. Your body's not meant to reconstruct itself in those. So, but no, we got X-rays and all that, and so
Yeah, you think that they just gonna fix that stuff right at the moment, but no, they got to set it up, make sure they got the
no.
right surgeons, operating room, time.
Well, I didn't
That's
even go to
what's
the hospital that did it. I'm due diligence. I will dig out the best surgeons,
Mhm.
and I will find the best place to go because I'm not going to let some half-ass surgeon work on me. Just not. I've been through too many of them. I've been on the operating table a lot, and I'm like, no, I'm good. You know what's funny? What else? I called my dad, and when I broke my leg, I called him. I was like, hey, just so you know, broke my leg pretty bad. He was like, call me when you're sober. He thought I was drunk. And my dad is the most loving,
Yeah.
amazing person in the world. But he was like, he just thought I was drunk, being a
Yeah.
goofball, like making some shit up. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, called him the next day, or no, I got to my buddy's place and sent him a picture of my leg in a splint. He said, you need me to come pick you up. And I said, no, dude. I was like,
Nah, I drove
I
home.
was like, I was like, I was like, I'm 3 hours away from y'all. I was like, I'm not. I was like, don't worry about it. Y'all come get me in the morning if you're not busy. I'm in a good place, so it's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's crazy about shock.
Mhm.
It almost is this drunk euphoric feeling, like a
Yeah.
high.
Mhm.
And my dad just thought I was drunk. He goes, "Nope, you weren't drunk." He was like,
Yeah.
"You just jacked up." So
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of similar to when I broke my elbow when I was like, 5th grade or like maybe
yeah,
4th grade. I don't even know. At recess, right? Like, we had like 2
Dad thought
jungle
you were drunk.
gyms. No, but like I just mean like the shock aspect of it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
almost act like you're drunk in a way. But like the
yeah, for
shock,
sure.
so there's like 2 like playgrounds, like a little kid one and a bigger one next to it. And I was like jumping from the top of the one and like doing a flip and like landing off of it. The one time I rotated wrong, so I landed on my elbow from probably, I don't know, 9 feet ish right onto the
Yeah,
ground. And like I felt it break, but like shock instantly, right? And I
yeah.
stood up and like I was like, oh, that's weird. My arm doesn't move. And I like tapped it and it just like was swinging loosely. And I was like, oh no. So I like grabbed it and I was holding it and
Oh,
I was like, man. So I went over to like a teacher and I was like, hey, I broke my arm. Like, you need to like call an ambulance or something. They're like, oh, you didn't break your arm. And I like let it go again and I tapped it and it was just swinging there. They're like, oh, your arm's broken. I was like, yeah, I know. I
I
just
just
told you
told you.
my arm's broken. They're like,
Love
oh,
this
so
story.
then like, they bring me there. Like I broke it straight through like my growth platelet. They're both bones there. So
Yeah,
I was in traction for a couple weeks in the hospital,
yeah.
which basically is a first surgery. They drill a hole through it, pound a rod through it, and then
Mhm.
hang it over a bed with weights, and you just lay there,
Yep,
poop into a pan and pee into a jug. And when you're a
yep.
fifth grader and you're having nurses take care of all that, that's pretty. Maybe that's why I'm not very shy about things to this day.
Right.
Like it's just you
Got that
grew up
out of
at
the
an
way.
early age. Yeah, it's just is what it is. You learn to deal with any situation you're presented with because people are resilient, right? Is kind of the
Yeah.
moral of this story. But yeah, even then, like, I get out of the second surgery like 2 weeks later, where they, remove the one pin from traction, put other stabilizing ones in, put
Yep.
me in a full arm cast. I wasn't allowed to go back to school for, I think, like 90 days or something. So I had to like have a
Yeah.
teacher come to my house and do that there. And then after, I don't know, that was probably the longest I've ever been in a cast. But like
Mhm.
before, that was my first bone I've ever broken too, outside of like a green tree fracture on my wrist climbing a tree when I was younger, or toes and fingers and noses. I don't count, all the things that heal by themselves and you don't see people. But I was,
Right.
as a kid, I was always like, yeah, I'd kind of like to break a bone. Like, that'd be cool. And then I broke this. I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. I
It's
never
not
wanted to
cool.
break. I'm
It's
not
not cool.
cool. It's
Not cool, man.
horrible.
Not cool.
Yeah. So after that 2 weeks and like I got out of the one surgery and I'm not in traction anymore, I finally like get to leave. Like, I get out of bed, right?
Yeah.
And what you don't understand is the atrophy that your body does in 2 weeks of not standing. Like
Yeah.
I had lost so much muscle mass in my legs and stuff. I'm standing up and they're like holding me because I'm like dropping because like you lose that much muscle mass that fast. That's
Oh
how
yeah. It's quick.
harder to get, easy to lose. That's
Yeah.
one of the mottos of life. But
Yeah.
like, the surgeons have told me too, it's like, hey, you broke it through your growth platelet. There's a chance it's not going to grow. So like, there's, I don't know what the percentage is, but I could have had a little T-Rex arm, and that changes my whole life. Like, do I still play paintball? Like maybe,
Oh yeah, you
but
do.
I probably wouldn't have
He's
been at
out
the
there with
level
a
I am.
pistol blazing the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
gap.
Probably wouldn't have been at the level I'm at for as long as I've had been without a fully functioning arm. But
Oh, you'd have been Wyatt Earp out there. You'd have been
yeah.
the pro Wyatt Earp.
So I got lucky with that, but I think a lot of it's too just positive belief because I heard that and I was like, no way, and it's not letting the negativity sink in and it let things happen. And even when I got out of my cast, they said there was like a 60% chance I'd never bend it past 90 degrees, so I would have been stuck, that far
instead of being here.
But like every day I just took and bent and bent and bent and bent, and like a lot of people don't know, but like it's still pretty crooked, but it's not
crooked.
bad. It's not bad.
It's not awful.
But I got it. I got it to where I needed it. It works fine. I don't have much feeling in that arm, a lot of numbness, a lot of nerve damage, like we talked about. But you deal with it, and that becomes your new normal, and you adjust from there. And you don't let it slow you down.
Life is what you make of it.
And I think like probably one of my second breaks ever, we were, as you know, in football practice, it was a muddy day. We were doing Oklahoma drills. So, little 2 yard, just offense against defense, ball carrier and a defender. And I'd slipped and I was going against one of the bigger kids on the team. And when I slipped, I kind of landed on my wrist and he landed right on top of me. So like I broke that. Like the rest of that practice, I threw on a lineman pad over it. And it was, I kept doing drills because, you just do it, go in the back. But I knew it was broken, like right when it happened. I heard it snap and stuff. And I think that's the kind of break I originally thought would be cool to at least experience because it wasn't like debilitating, right? It sucked. So I put this. Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
So I put this lineman pad on and I'm like favoring that arm, but like still doing the drills and stuff. And my coach starts yelling at me. He's like, "What do you got going on?" I was like, "Well, I broke my arm, like an hour ago." He's like, "You can break your arm." Once again, I like pulled it off. It's already all black. He's like, "You can't." I'm a little kid because like I was already playing paintball by the time I was going on, like traveling and playing. I was playing, but then this was probably like 7th or 8th grade. But by 9th grade, I was traveling and playing paintball and couldn't do school sports anymore because of the time investment in paintball. So this was like 7th grade, like this summer before 7th grade, probably. And he's like, "You can't be doing this. You have to go to the hospital." So I went and got a cast and was at practice the next day. I couldn't be a wide receiver anymore, but I was a pretty good safety, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that'll happen.
And then same thing, shock once again. I got one more quick story. It's like when I broke my jaw, that time I was, a little bit of alcohol was involved. So that leads into your story with your dad saying, "Are you drunk?" But, it was, on Impact, we had just won the first event, the Phoenix Open in 2010. First event I played with them, we just won. A week later was the Huntington Beach 7-man event. In between there, we were hanging out, whatever, had some drinks, we were wrestling around. And like, one thing led to another. I broke my jaw. I instantly, you sober up. And I was like, oh, I either broke my neck or my jaw. And I was like, okay, I can move. I broke my jaw. Right. And like go in with all like, Justin, Zach, and Zane and Joshua Med. And we go in the bathroom and they don't have the adrenaline in the shock that they're dealing with. So they're like, "Oh, maybe you could just sleep it off or whatever." But I opened my mouth and it was like the predator, blood squirted out. It was completely unhinged on the bottom. I was like pinched it back shut. I was like, no, I got to go to the hospital.
It's broken.
We had to wake Bart up. I mean, to this day, I can't thank Bart enough for, all he did for me in that situation, taking care of it. But, that was a Sunday night. Go to the hospital. Once again, they don't believe you. I have blood on my shirt. I'm sober, but I'm like holding my jaw shut. Like, and I'm like, what are you here for? I was like, I broke my jaw. They're like, "Jaw is a really hard bone to break. You probably didn't break your jaw." I was like, whatever. I just showed it. They're like, "Oh, your jaw's broken." I was like, "I know." It's like,
told you.
What I told you. They still do all the x-rays and stuff. And like in my mind, like, I'm going into surgery and they're getting this fixed because this was horrible. Like the nerve cord that goes through your jaw is like, one of the most sensitive ones on your body. And even like when I got my wisdom teeth out, my doctor was like, "Oh, wow, your nerve core in your jaw, I've never seen one that big." He's like, "It's like the size of my pinky. It's so thick." He's like, "Things must hurt you a lot in there." I'm like, "They do, I guess, but I don't know. It's my normal, so it made no difference,
Right.
But now that's fully exposed. To swallow spit, I'm holding my jaw together so I can just try to swallow spit and breathe. And I'm still thinking like maybe the next day surgery or whatever. But to get the right surgeon, to get the operating room booked, like my surgery wasn't until Wednesday afternoon, so I still had 3 days to go through of like zero sleep, like drinking liquid Vicodin. The only thing I could do to keep that like extreme pain away, to like literally just holding my jaw shut the entire time.
Yeah.
Get the surgery, get my jaw wired shut, all the plates and screws in, and the rest is history. Able to play through that injury. Like you said, I think pain can be a mental thing. It's pain and injuries are two different things to me. Like I can deal with pain. I won't risk more injury. So like, even when I got out of the surgery, I asked my surgeon, I was like, "Hey, like," I was mumbling because my jaw was like, I was like, when can I start doing physical activity? in my mind thinking I'm going to play this tournament in 2 days. And in his mind, he's like, oh yeah, in about 6 weeks, you can start like light jogging. And I was like, whoa. I was like, no, but like, when can I? He's like, well, I told you it's about 6 weeks. I was like, here's what I want to do. He's like, well, when's that? I was like, Friday. He's like, no. I was like, so I'm not asking you for permission. I'm asking you if I will further the damage in any way. He's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, no, that's not what I asked you again. I was like, am I going to further the damage?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no. He's like, you have so much titanium in your jaw right now, nothing's moving, but it's going to be excruciating. You'd never be able to do that. I was like, okay, I'm going to play. And it was cool that my surgeon actually came out and watched me play that Huntington Beach.
No shit.
Yeah. Got him some passes. He brought his kids out and he watched me play pretty much the whole event. He said he could not condone it, but he could come and watch me make a foolish mistake.
Yeah, dude.
It was tough.
Supervision.
Yeah, it was tough. We ended up getting second place to Dynasty that event. The finals went to 3 games, and I think they hung the flag with like a second left. It was a good finals. Would have been cool to win back-to-back first 2 events in 2 different leagues with Impact as their first 2 pro wins. Didn't work out that way. But really, it's like the pain management wasn't so bad. I was afraid to get shot in the jaw. I like zip tied some foam onto my mask. There's more of a peace of mind than something that would help. But what I didn't expect to be an issue was breath work. That was what I struggled with the most that tournament. I was still playing front, make a run off the break. You don't realize how tired you are if you can't get a good breath. I have a pretty bad deviated septum from breaking my nose, multiple times doing things. So I do breathe a lot out of my mouth. I'm a mouth breather, it is what it is. But I'd get to a bunker and I'd be so out of breath and I'd be like trying to go these little huffs trying to get it back. And that was the hardest thing. The thing I was most impressed with was my horrible communication was like doing that.
Can't get nothing.
But the guys on my team could understand me and that they were almost more vigilant in trying to be aware. So they'd hear the mumbling and pay attention a little more, look at me more. And I'd use hand signals. And that taught me that like the effort you put in on both sides of communication on the field is important. It's not just the yelling. The listening is probably the most important thing you can do in communication, right? It's the making the concerted effort to try to hear what your teammates are saying at all times. Because if you're so zoned in on the moment, you might not even notice that they're saying something because it becomes background noise. But if you're always acutely aware and always trying to listen, you will at least hear them speaking and you might not pick it up right away. Their voice might not carry far enough, but all of a sudden you can pay a little more attention and you can pick up cues. You can pick up body language cues. You can pick up little tones. You can pick up hand signals, and then you become a better communicator. So I think honestly, I give all the credit to the 6 other people playing around me that tournament, but they understood what I was doing because they put more effort into doing that. And that taught me a lot about communication, because in paintball, I've struggled. I have pretty good field awareness. I don't like tooting my own horn, but I do have pretty good field vision, field awareness, and usually know a good bit about what's going on. But I really struggle because I have a pretty piss poor voice, a loud voice, right? It doesn't carry well. I can't really exuberantly expend it over the field. It's not one of those voices that just bellow.
It doesn't carry.
It just doesn't carry. Right? And that taught me communication. It taught me a lot more about trying to put more effort into always paying attention to what the other people are doing, to communicate in more than one way. So I a lot of times we'll have calls, but we'll also have similar calls that mean similar things. I'll reiterate the same call 3 times with 3 different words because someone might pick up on a certain tone one way. I'll use hand signals when I have time. I do those kind of things to make it easier for other people around. And I think that has helped a lot. And that came from, an injury and a bad thing, but I think had made me a better paintball player and understand the communication side of things more, which communication to me is probably the most important thing in our sport. Looking back, if I could have changed one thing about how I trained or practiced or did anything for paintball that would have made me a much better player, at a young age, I wish I would have taken voice lessons, because I think learning how to, get my point across faster and louder would have really paid dividends.
Yeah. I think what carries in a voice more is when you hit deeper tones.
Octaves and stuff. And that's
Yes.
one thing that, like, I wouldn't say Beyonce taught me, but I stole from her is like she almost sings when Mike Paxton's wife. I know you know. Do you know Mike Paxton? Beyonce used to play on female teams. Mike Paxton coaches, the Ironman now with Shane. But like Mike's a great dude. He was a great player. I still is a great player in 10-man. Love the guy. It's one of my favorite people in paintball. You'd love him too. He lives in Montana, hunts, fishes, does everything, hikes.
Like, my kind of guy.
He is 100% your kind of guy. He's just good people, right?
Yeah.
But his wife B, when she played, like she would sing almost when she's so if she was saying like back left, she was like back left, like the 1, the 5. You hear me change pitches like that though. Because I do.
A flux.
Yeah,
you do a fluctuation in
and
your
I stole
vocals.
it from her. I heard her doing it. I knew my voice was bad. This was probably back in. And this might have been in like 2005 in Australia is the first time I really noticed her doing it. And I already knew my voice wasn't great. And I started picking that up and using that. And that helped a little bit because it's noticeable, right? And
you hear tone pitch, someone's going to be like, oh,
like you
Moorhead
get someone
saying something, like
you get someone's attention. You get someone, or not even necessarily look, but if they hear that,
true,
it grasps their attention a little more. And then they could use a little more about their processing power to focus on that. And then when you're focusing on one noise instead of 5 noises, you can now make it out, right?
Yeah.
Like if I have the TV playing and I'm watching a movie, but you're talking to me and I'm looking at my phone, I'm kind of taking in all of that. But if one thing sticks out, I can focus my attention towards one of the things, not hear the other things and hear that thing better instead of hearing 40% of all of it.
Right.
So I picked that up and been doing that for now 20 years. Probably need to do it more sometimes than I do. But at the beginning, so many people made fun of me for doing it and laughed about it, said it was ridiculous. But I was like, I don't care. I don't care if I look ridiculous, sound ridiculous, am ridiculous. I'll do whatever it takes to be better at what I can be better at.
Yeah, for sure. Some people's voices, and you've been around me enough outside of a place when I start having fun. And, there's 2 sides of me, and you've seen it. There's Hal that is very quiet.
I support a healthy 4.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell. Congratulations, sir.
Didn't think there was much left in there.
A little more than you thought. There's a side. There's 2 sides of Hal. Right? There is a quiet side of Hal.
Is there?
Most people, you fucking know it. Fuck you. Pardon my language for the viewers.
You edit this, you can beep that out. It's 102.52.
I'm not beeping it out. This is raw and unfiltered, baby. No. But there is a side of Hal, and you see it when you're playing, or there's other sides or instances where I am very quiet. I don't speak much. I don't say much. And then there's other sides when I get excited. I'm having a good time. And I am loud. What's funny is I'm not trying to be loud. I don't mean to be, because I'll be out in public and I'm talking to my wife. And she's like, you're being loud. And I'm like, and it's like, it's because of, we'll just say, previous experiences of my life. We'll leave it to that. But I do have this tone in my voice that has this rasp in this bellow to it, right?
And it's a little more commanding.
Yeah, and it has this bop, right? And it's, and it's funny. People, and it's not that, it's just how your body is made, right? And like I have this reverb almost in my voice, like where it just and it, like when I'm speaking, it has that tone, and those are things that carry. And then some people don't have that because of how their body is. And and there's a difference if I say something and I'm not even trying to be loud, you'll hear it across the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not trying to be that way. It's just genetics, ancestral, like depending on what's going on. And I
But
think
people
it's
never
great
hear
when
me.
people, huh?
But
Well, I
people
think
never hear me.
yeah, but I think it's great because you know that, so you have these different attacks to mitigate that, right? So I think that's a really cool thing. But before we get off the rails, I want to tell one more shock story,
Yeah.
and then we'll move on
Oh,
to some other stuff. Go
let me
ahead,
finish
go.
the jaw. We'll just finish the jaw one
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
because
finish
like
the
that
job.
wasn't.
Part,
Uh,
pardon
After
all.
that, go from the Huntington Beach event. I flew pretty much straight to Malaga for a Millennium Series event.
Malaga,
Yeah,
enlighten.
Spain, Mediterranean,
Spain.
Spain.
Yes.
Yeah, on the
Okay.
beach in Spain. So
I thought you went to Spain, but I wanted to make
yeah,
sure. And if our viewers didn't know where Malaga was, and I wanted
yeah.
to,
So that
So you
that
sat
was
on a
that.
plane.
Oh yeah, and the pressure of the plane definitely didn't feel good,
Yeah.
and those things. Not that wasn't really the point. The point was is like sometimes like the things that you think are going to be bad end up not being so bad, and the things that you don't expect end up being the worst part of the situation.
Oh
For
yeah.
me, what was the most torturous part about breaking my jaw and having it wired shut was not being able to eat. I love food. I need food. I like good food. And smelling food, watching my teammates eat, traveling, because like I wasn't in comfort. From the time I broke my jaw till 2.5 weeks later, I wasn't even at home,
Can I say this real quick? If you've never been to Spain, they have great food.
Yeah,
Like the
I know.
food is so good. I know you know,
It
but I'm
smells
just
good
saying to
too.
the viewers, like the aroma, like it is a full experience. When you get to go eat Spanish food, like it is
I
a
slid a couple pieces of shaved ham through my
yeah.
little teeth.
And when he's talking about shaved ham, it's not like what we have here. This stuff is like prosciutto. It is
Yeah.
like a dried, cured, like
And
delicacy.
I
It
went
is
with
fantastic.
and I got
But
it. Like the only reason I had to because this was like from the pigs that only eat acorns. It's like a purple. It's
yes,
like melts in your mouth. It's like the wagyu of pork as far as that
yes, it
stuff
is.
goes. Pretty much Iberico.
Yes,
So
Iberico. Thank you.
I had to.
Well,
Ate some that way, but still, that was torture. Uh,
oh, it's
Literally
horrible.
for a couple weeks. I mean, really for about 6 weeks, all I lived off of was protein powder. But for that 2 weeks, they couldn't get anything. There was no,
Yeah.
Fruit juices or protein powder. So to this day, like since I don't drink any protein powder, it just turns me so much because I overdid it. But in that amount of time, the hardest, trials and tribulations that I had to go through were watching my teammates eat, smelling all the food, not being able to eat, and literally withering away. I think I don't know if it was 6 or 8 weeks, but I went from 185 pounds, which is usually my healthy walking around weight. I'll vary between 180 and 190, depending on
Yeah.
the situation. But I went from 185 to 140 in about 6-7 weeks.
Jeez.
I was so frail and like you just couldn't eat enough and like
Fucking
playing
looking
paintball
like
the
you're
whole time,
homeless.
expending a lot of calories but not being able to put them back in
Yeah.
fast enough, and that it's like that was like really what I struggled with, not the pain of the jaw and those things. Like that sucks to this day. Every day I think about it, I still feel it. There's a lot of numbness, pain, stuff like that, but like it was that like unexpected consequence that
Oh
you
yeah.
deal with. But
Yeah.
and honestly, like my jaw was wired shut. Obviously, after the Spain event, we took a boat across the Strait of Gibraltar into Morocco, and Daddy gets a little seasick sometimes, and not the best. The best
I
time is
remember
not when
this.
you. The best time is not when you have your jaw broken.
I
So,
remember this.
so
Yeah.
I did get really sick on the way there, and
Throwing up
had
in
to,
your own mouth.
and I had to swallow it all because I was not about to cut the wires off and go get that dealt with. So on the way back, I stocked up on African Dramamine and stayed up on the top of the boat with the wind. Didn't get sick. It was a much better situation. But yeah. Always plan accordingly. Realize the situation you're in and plan accordingly, because I probably shouldn't have done that.
Well, if you ever go, we're gonna go. I'm taking you. We don't have to go offshore, but
No,
we
no,
can
no, no.
still get. We can
It's
still
weird.
get
I do better on small boats, and like I don't always get seasick. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. I
Okay.
could. I could still get very seasick, but I could be in the same
Well,
situation a couple times. I'm just not genetically. I got passed down a very poor disposition to spinning and things
yeah.
like that. If I spin too much, I get incredibly sick. It's not something where it's like, oh,
Equilibrium.
I'm dizzy for a second, and then it's like, oh, it's better. Like usually, if I get like that dizzy or that seasick, it kind of ruins my day. Like
Yeah.
even as a kid, like I loved heights, I love dropping, I love speed. So like I
Yeah.
still liked amusement parks, but I had to be careful that they didn't spin too much or have too many loops in them in a row because like I could kind of just like mess up my whole day from there. So it's not consistent, and there's ways to fight that now. Like Dramamine works for me. I can usually be on a boat fine with Dramamine.
Well,
I know they have those like watches and stuff that like
they have
the pressure point patch or the patches. They have the
behind your
pressure
ear.
point ones. Yeah.
They
So
have the
there's
ones that
different.
go behind your ear and stuff.
So there's definitely different ways to approach that where I'm not that concerned about it. And I said like it's really weird because like when I was in Australia the first time we went and did snorkeled on the Great Barrier Reef and stuff, and we were on a boat and we were at the bottom and the back, and it's maybe I don't remember offhand, but I want to say probably like an hour and a half, 2 hour boat ride cruising through pretty rough water to get out there. We probably had some drinks the night before, get on that boat early in the morning. I'm in the bottom of the boat. It's probably warmer. Should have been up top.
Yeah.
Didn't get seasick, right?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Get out, was in the water for, 4 hours, whatever. As soon as I stood back up on that boat, I got like instantly seasick. So it's like, it's not
sea legs.
always,
It's the sea legs.
it's not
You
always
get
instant.
used-
It's just your inner ear balance and stuff, how it affects it. Sometimes it can handle it and sometimes it can't. The crystals in your ears are shifting constantly. And if you're more, if you're more susceptible to that, it's just kind of like a hair trigger that can.
Yeah. And, when I take you fishing, we have potential. We'll be on a 24-foot boat that is made to handle that. But there are times where you're in the middle of the waves because of wave separation and then your swell height. You might not see above.
See, that kind of stuff doesn't normally bother me. It's like, I think.
Well, when you
just. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. If I knew what it was, I could fix it.
you can't. That's the thing. Genetically, you can't. It depends on your equilibrium and how you're built.
And I got it mostly from my mom's side. Bad spinner. Very. She used to get worse than me though. I remember she always used to get car sick and stuff. I don't get car sick really, unless someone has fake heat on too much. But I can read in a car or watch videos on the plane. I don't really get plane sick unless I have the combination of heat plus that.
Yeah. Well, when we get into the worst part is like whenever you're offshore fishing, it's calm day. You look at the forecast. Like we don't have the full Simrad. Like I've thought about getting full Simrad. Simrad's the full beacon that spins, and you can see your weather pattern on all your charts and plotters and stuff. And so, those are handy, but the ocean is the ocean and it does what it wants.
It's just crazy because like I can cruise around on like a Sea-Doo or a jet ski on real choppy water, cruise around, never have gotten sick on something like that. Well, on wakeboard boats or no problem. Usually it's like once they start getting bigger and it's more like a cruise or something like that messes me up more, where it's more of like the. Go ahead. I'm pretty much done. I didn't really know where I was going with that.
So what happens is when people, because I've been offshore so much of my life, I haven't seen land. Like I'm okay with leaving and not knowing where land is, right? Like it's gone. You don't see it anymore. Now, the thing is that is your horizon. And what happens is when people lose horizon, then what happens is you start to lose equilibrium. Now, there's certain things, when I tell people, hey, if you're going in the ocean, you're going fishing with me. For the first hour, do not look down at the water. You look at the horizon way out. Like, I mean, as far as you can see, where the sky and the ocean are the only thing that it meshes together.
What's that, like about 23 miles?
No, it depends on the day. It
I
depends
know,
on
but
the
I'm
day.
saying on a flat day, like I think the curvature of the Earth, if is about 23 miles before you can
I've
see.
lost horizon in 6 to 8 miles before.
Mhm.
It depends on the haziness because
Yeah,
of
of
the
course.
humidity,
I'm saying
but
on a completely clear day, I think the
mm,
farthest it is
12
somewhere around
miles.
there. Okay.
12 miles is about typical. Once you crest 12 miles, you'll start land starts to really dissipate that
Hmm.
visual.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can get 15, 16, but usually that's about peak. So, um, but yeah, no, it's a long ways. Like nautical miles, 12 miles is a
No, for
it's a
sure.
long
For
ways.
sure.
But we'll even be like when we go fish for redfish, what I'm hopefully we can get scheduled up. We'll be in fishing in a 20 something foot boat, and there could be 4 foot rollers, which
Hmm.
are waves, but they don't crest.
Yeah.
When a wave
Oh yeah.
crests, that's what makes it a wave, right?
Yeah. And that's
Rollers,
the
what's that?
sandbars or something that it's hitting that's allowing it to
Channel,
peak. Yeah.
yep,
Where
and
the crests I assume are mostly
like a
for
sandbar.
elevation.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's
So
something
it's
that
just hitting it and
forces the
going up.
wave to change.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a channel, those waves. What's cool is like those waves will be rollers or a swell. And so when you get those swells, they don't crest, which is nice because you don't have to worry about timing with your boat as much. You still got to worry about timing, like throttle input.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you peak, you back off so you drop nose and crest
Yeah.
down at the right times. But um, you'll be in those rollers and you can't see over them. And you're in a
Hmm.
24-foot boat. You're like, oh, this is big. You're like, ooh. And you're like, don't fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But rollers are safer than waves. But
Oh, for sure. For sure.
yeah. But you know, it's yeah. Equilibrium is crazy, and it's
Yeah.
so crazy. Everyone is so different, and it's
Mm.
just a crazy deal. My mom, you make a couple, winding turns with some wiggle waggles
Yeah.
just back and forth. Car
Yeah.
sick.
That's how my
Luckily,
mom was growing up too. And like
yeah,
I got bad of it, but not as bad as her. Like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. But spinning does trigger me pretty bad.
yeah,
It's tough
does it?
having a little girl, she loves me spinning her around, but I can only go about 4 or 5 spins before I gotta slow down. And she's always
You
like,
got to
again, again. I'm
counter
like,
it. You got to
no,
go
no,
the other way.
I hear you. I hear you. It just doesn't work.
I'm
I'll tell you
playing.
when I got some of the most dizzy sickness like that was my first time skydiving. Uh, you
Oh,
know, we did it from 14,000 feet, so we got the free fall for 60 seconds.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah, which was nice, and I love that. And
He started doing
I
spins, didn't he? He under
on
canopy.
that, well, so I have no problems with heights, right? Like most people think about skydiving, they fear the heights. I didn't really
Terrifying.
worried about anything, right? So
Yeah.
I get up there, jump out, was surprised by how peaceful it was actually, right? Because as
Oh,
soon
it's
as you
so
hit terminal velocity, you're not falling anymore. You're kind of floating. I know you're falling, but it doesn't feel like that anymore,
no.
right? So
Feels
you're
like you're
only
on a
it only
ball of
feels
air.
like yeah, it only feels like you're falling for that first few seconds until you hit terminal
It's the hill.
velocity.
Yep.
So I hit that, love the free falling part, no problem. We opened the canopy. It was pretty easy, right? Like he's spinning a little, still felt pretty decent. He gives me the controls to play around with, and to tell me what to do and stuff. We were corkscrewing a bit too much. I started getting a little woozy, but still was like better than I thought I'd be. But once again, it was like as soon as I hit the land or the ground and then we landed, I was
Oh.
like out for the day, dude. I was like so sick.
Pro tip is a tandem instructor. Tandem is what you do when you take
Yep.
someone like Ryan on a jump. You don't have to do it your first one. You can do AFF and go through an 8-hour course and do a jump the same
Yeah.
day.
When
But
you do those same
tandem is
day
huh?
jumps, when you do the same day jumps, do they do the static lines for those, or can you
Nope.
actually
Static
pull in
line
your
is
first one?
obsolete. Yep.
Oh, really?
Static line is obsolete now. No one does static line
I
anymore.
didn't know that. That's my dad kind of, when he was skydiving, that's
Yeah.
they had to do
Yep.
like so many static jump lines
Yep.
before they did their solos. And
AFF is what you go through. AFF stands for accelerated free fall. If you're just tuning into this, I have an extensive background in skydiving history. a large part of my life that I've hung up the towel in, but I was very in an intricate part at a drop zone, a couple drop zones in my lifetime. But AFF is when is accelerated free fall. So you go through your course, you have your first jump, it'd be 2 instructors, they hold on to you, full exit, so you don't leave alone. One's hanging outside the plane, holding on to you. The other one's inside the door while you're outside the door, holding on to the plane. So you have 2 instructors your first jump the whole time, and they are completely holding on to you the whole time. So you can do that, but most people want to test the waters first and do a tandem, which is what Ryan did.
Yeah, that's what you can do when you're, traveling and you have a couple hours to kill. They tell you
for
like,
a jump,
arch this way, do this. Okay, you're cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's a amusement ride, right?
Yep.
That's what it is. It's an amusement ride. It's a great ride. Love it. Pro tip as a tandem instructor.
2
if
instructors.
Someone ever start,
2 an instructor or 2 people that would be going.
Like, if you're getting sick, if you have someone that's knowledgeable, like, and's done it a lot, because you're already sick, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're already throwing up.
Ooh.
The worst part is when you throw up under your canopy, when you have
that would be so awful.
They turn on you and then the wind just blasts you with it. So what you do,
I don't deal well with throw up either. That's one thing that, like, if someone's throwing up that close to me, I'm throwing up.
So here's
no
the pro
bars
tip.
about it.
Here's the pro tip in my experience. This is what you do. You look at where their head is and which way they're turning it, and you dump the fucking toggle. And you turn away from it.
Yeah. So it's just shooting around, leaving trailers.
Yeah, but you don't get it on you, dog. You're like, boom, and you dodge it.
I got another pro tip then. This is a random place to learn something, but when I was like younger, my parents used to like to watch like the CSI shows when they first came out.
Yeah.
And there was like a scene in one where the smell and the awfulness of the situation was like making these people gag, a new person that was on the scene. And they were saying about how you can't gag while you're smiling. And like, I already knew I had gag problems then. So I have tried it since then. And it definitely helps. Like if you force a smile during a situation where you'd be gagging, it can at least give you the time to hopefully get out of that situation.
It starts blocking off your sinuses. Is what happens is when you smile, it blocks off.
You'll look like a psycho.
Yeah, they'll be like, "What's wrong with you?" Yeah. No, just a fun little thing.
That's just the way your senses work too, because like same thing. If like you don't want to taste something and you like the holding your nose or holding your breath and then swallowing it, that's the same thing. You're not allowing your senses to perceive things the same way they should.
Right. And sorry, I seem jittery. I've just been in bed for so long, like my body's like creaky.
We broke Groundhog Day with this. You got to do something new today.
I get to see a person. No, it's good. But
so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'd like to hear yours first. Can't go back and forth.
Mine's a short story. Go.
That's why I wanted yours. That's perfect.
Okay. So my dad, I get a lot of my mannerisms, mentality, and stuff from my dad. God bless him. He's just a phenomenal human being.
Man, good parents are one of the best blessings you can have in life.
Ain't it though? Ain't it? But so my dad, when he got out of high school, his parents were like, "You got to go to college," and he was like, "I'm not going to college." They're like, "Well, you at least got to go to a tech school," and he's like, "I don't know what I want to go to tech school for." Right. So he goes and does butchering because he grew up hunting and fishing, like cutting on meat, something he's always done. He's like, maybe I can open my own butcher shop, maybe have a meat market kind of deal. He's like, oh, I'll go to school for that. If y'all going to make me go, it's a year versus 4. So whatever. At least I enjoy doing it. So anyways, he was working. He was at his one job. He was out of tech school. He was being a butcher. And my dad can sharpen a knife like no other man. I mean, he can get that stuff scary. So anyways, he was about to cut, I think it was a big ribeye roast, cut it up into ribeyes. And so He had just sharpened this knife. I mean, it's insane how good he can do. And so,
my grandpa always used to love showing me how sharp his knives were by shaving his arm hair.
dude, my dad, if you try and shave your arm hair, it'll flay your damn skin.
I know. Oh,
It's
I know
dumb.
that. I was just saying that
I know
that brought back a
it's an
fond
art.
memory from my childhood. It
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
really
an
that. It
art.
was just like I fondly remember like my grandfather
Yeah.
showing me those things.
Sharpening knives and keeping an edge and your degree is an artwork.
Yeah.
I'm good at it. I don't hold a candle with my dad.
Yeah.
It's insane. So he was at the job and his boss elbows him, and he has this knife in the hand. He's getting ready to cut the roast, and he goes, look at that. And he looks up, and my dad was in midway down to go to the meat, lops through his left middle first knuckle.
What's crazy is when you have a sharp knife like that, you don't notice it as fast as you would.
Chop, bam.
But also, it's so smooth as it does it. It's and it's cutting things so cleanly. You know what I mean? You're not like tearing, it's slicing. So it is.
It's impressive. It's impressive what it
does. So he cut through his first knuckle and he was just cutting
it was holding on by a piece of skin. He grabs his hand like this. He lops through it, gets it literally through the first knuckle, right? Grabs his finger and holding it, looks at his boss and goes, I cut my finger off. His boss goes, no, you didn't.
Everyone loves saying, no, you didn't.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck you. When someone says, no, you didn't, I'm like, fuck you. Yes, I did. I know my body.
Yeah.
And he goes, like this, and blood just goes.
Well, it doesn't bleed instantly when you cut it like that, too.
No. But once he held it.
Oh, yeah. And
it was to that
builds
point,
up a little pressure and then boom.
Yeah. And he goes like this, because once you pressurize a wound and you let off, that's why they say when you put on a tourniquet, don't ever let it off, because it's going to bleed worse and you'll bleed out faster. Yeah. Same thing with any kind of wound. When you apply pressure, hold pressure and keep it.
And you want to apply it quickly, because if you apply it before it starts bleeding, it's going to hold better, but just hold it after that.
Hold it. Don't let it go. Yeah. So he was like, oh, no, you didn't. And he goes, boop, and like shows him, and it just goes, and he goes, you cut your finger off. Yeah. To this day, my dad can't move his knuckle right here, and it's got a big bump. So it's funny, he can only move it from like the second knuckle.
Yeah.
But anyway, his shot, is wild.
Yeah, speaking of the pressure like that too, I guess picture it like this. Like if I took a hose and cut it in half while it was off and put it together and turn the water on, the water's going to flow through it and just drip out of it a little. But while I have the water on full force, if I open that up and try to put that back on, I won't get that good of a seal again.
No. It's going to be
it's kind of how your body's working too.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Same thing. So to recap, surgery went great. Everything's good.
Oh, yeah, that was still surgery talk, huh?
No, I'm just recap. Small recap.
No, it was though. I'm saying that those were good tangents off of it.
Like dude, it was a great tangent. It was fun. I love it. Surgery went good. Pain is a mental thing. Like, it's okay to feel pain. One of my buddies checked into me. Actually, we're having him on next week. We're having Billy Campbell on. I'm really excited. He checked in on me, and I'm really excited for you to meet Billy.
Yeah. So, if you say he's good people, I'll like him, you know me.
I hold him at the same stature as my dad.
Oh, that's very exciting to hear.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's big. Because if you know me, my dad is my tried and true best friend. So Billy hit me up, and I said, and I'm not trying to be tough, vibrato, like big boy, but it's truly a mentality that I have. Pain is growth. Right? I'm going to get to be, I told him, he said, how you doing? He goes, how's the pain? I said, oh, I'm doing great, man. I said, pain is growth. And I said, there's no growth without pain.
And without pain, how do you know you're not alive? You're not dead, you know?
How do you know this isn't all real?
Yeah.
When you don't have pain.
Yeah.
So, I think people, instead of being afraid of pain, when you have it, endure it, head it, be headstrong with it and face forward. Tough decisions. Uh, if when it comes to your body, elective is probably one of the toughest, but I think it's the most important. So I think it's I think and if anyone ever has any questions, I by no means am I a doctor, but I've had a lot of surgeries. Like I said, I've been on the operating table, I think, like 12 times, which is more than most people in an average life. And I'm only 34. But what I will say is if you have questions or you're worried about something like, Archie Barnes Jr., I heard about his injury last year and I reached out to Tyler after World Cup and I'm like, hey, can you tell Archie to please hit me up and talk to me? I might have a solution that will be beneficial for him because I've done stem cells. A lot of people haven't done stem cells. It's very new in the US. I did stem cells about 8 years ago. Life changed, helped my back. It, did a great thing for me. And like, if you have any questions about PRP, which is a form of stem cell, anything like that, please reach out. But, anyways, so the big thing is don't face your fears head on and be the conqueror. Don't be the submissive, right? So,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Comedical events. Fun things about surgery. If you've never been on a surgery table, Ryan, I know you have. We talked about this today. I was in there with my wife, which, they put me in where I go to. When you find a good surgeon and they have it's not at a regular hospital when you do your surgery. It's a private clinic where it's a private like facility. It's not open to the public, right? So that's how you know where you're in a good place. Um, they don't have these little partition boards like in an office, which some hospitals will be that way. But anyways, I they said, here's your gown. I said, all right. So a gown, everybody. A gown is fully open in the back. And Ryan and I talked about this today. It's like you always have this moment of like, do I let my butt hang out?
I told you I got a nice spot. I just let it fly, dude.
Dude, I got a pretty decent one, but you're just like, you're like, do I let it hang out? And you're like, it's fine. But it's always a comedical, like it's so funny. And then, what's fun about surgery is if you've been in a lot of them, they call it like a cocktail or margarita. So my surgery, to recap on this, on the day of surgery, there was actually snow. The doctor was an hour and a half late because they shut one of the passes down because he comes up from Vale, which has a really steep pass. Some semis jackknifed because it got real slick. It snowed overnight and stuff. So, anyways, he had to go all the way around, which was an hour and a half detour, but was faster than waiting on the highway to open, right? So he was like, I'm going to go around. And they're like, hey, you're going to be delayed. And I said, okay, no worries. And I looked at the nurse and I was like, when can I get my margarita? I'm not a tequila. I told her, I said, I am a tequila person, but I am today. And my anesthesiologist just looked at me and laughed and was like, she knew I'd been through some surgeries and I know what's going on. So,
oh yeah,
it's the margarita or cocktail. And I told her, I said, I'm ready for happy hour whenever y'all are. I was like, let's get it going. And they give you this shot, just the most relaxing feeling. It's right before you go to sleep.
You feel like that warmth kind of go.
Yeah, it's just a good warmth, and you're like, everything's okay. And I told Ryan, I was like, I wasn't nervous at all. And Ryan said, anxious and nervous are two different things, right? I'm ready to get it over with. My blood pressure was like 140 over something. And I went to the bathroom out the gown. That's when I had that moment. I'm like, do I show it or do I hide it? Right. And then I came back in the room and I looked at the screen because they put the screens behind you so you don't stress and worry. But when they walk by as well, they can look by, see your vitals and be like, okay, you're good. You're not. And I was like, am I really that high? She goes, that's what it read when they unplugged you. I was like, wow, I don't feel like that. But it's funny how the body, your
I don't think
mind.
you feel blood pressure though. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, but when you're real nervous, like
I
you
know, I know, I know.
feel
No,
like
I
you
know.
feel it. But I wasn't nervous, but my body was anxious. But I wasn't nervous, right? And it's two different things. It's two different things. And people, it's crazy you don't realize that until you get into those instances, right? So,
I have
um,
a super wrong, but in my mind it's right theory about blood pressure. You know, blood pressure is
okay.
bad. Blood pressure is bad. But in my opinion, I think high blood pressure is good. It's just weak veins that are bad. So,
Mm,
so it's like if
interesting.
you had stronger veins, the higher blood pressure is just pumping things through
And then you
faster. You're
wouldn't
just
have high
keeping
blood
your
pressure,
finger.
though. It'd be
That's not
straight
true.
line.
You could
Straight
have this.
line, dog.
That's not true. Think of it in paintball terms, right? If I try to put 4,500 psi into a CO2 tank, it's exploding. If I put
Blown up.
4,500 psi into a carbon fiber HK alpha air tank, no problem. Easy peasy, no
No
problem.
problem.
So it's not the high blood pressure that's the problem. It's just if you have weak veins. That's bad doctor advice, not right. But in my mind, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I
I
think
like
this
it. I
was,
like the theory. I
yeah,
like the theory.
but
I
I
love it.
really did enjoy this episode. I think like I get a lot out of learning about, people's struggles and how that they succeed from them, hardship and success. It's all important. I think we could end now, but I do think it'd be a disservice to not touch on the current
That's what I
happenings
was
in
going to ask.
paintball.
Yeah.
So obviously, the last 2 weeks have been pretty consumed by the Marcelo and Dan Bilzerian controversy. And I'll sum it up with just saying, like, we're going to keep this fairly short and sweet, but I'd like to touch on this. I think a lot of people are probably trying to avoid it because it is a touchy subject. Being on, you can get labeled one way or another just by saying slightly the wrong thing that someone else doesn't expect you to say, whatever. I'll say this. I was going to sum up the situation first for anyone who doesn't know, but I think you'd have to be living under a rock to not know. But Marcelo coaches Bilzerian's team protocol. Dan has some pretty out there views on, Israel and Semitism in general and the way the world works. Marcelo, but those are all known, right? I don't think they're hidden. I don't think they're that. Like
He doesn't care.
more than open and more than willing to share his viewpoint, right or wrong. Marcelo is making a video showing his mask collection. Happened to scan over a gun with a lot of Nazi imagery on it. From
The
Iron
Totenkopf,
Eagle, the Totenkopf from the Iron Eagle,
Third Reich War Eagle. Yep.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then SS,
There's
Lightning Bolts.
yeah. Obviously, the swastika, all that. It's tough for me because the paintball world reacted in a way I'm very proud of the way it reacted, because I think it's important to stand up for what you believe in, and when you see hate, it's important to approach that head on. I think I fully believe in free speech, which is protection from the government. Like, in my opinion, the way our Constitution was framed, it wasn't the government allows us certain things. It's we allow the government to govern, knowing that we have certain unalienable rights. Free speech is one of them.
Yep.
That doesn't stop you from getting backlash or repercussions from non-government ways, right?
Yep.
So when the paintball community saw that, they saw it as racism and hate. And in a lot of ways, I agree. And a lot of the backlash got put on Marcelo instead of Dan, because Dan is a public figure and not cancelable. No one expected better from Dan, so it wasn't a surprise. But I think what the paintball industry didn't expect is to see Marcelo standing beside someone like that. And I'd like to approach this in kind of a two-faceted way. I think a lot of what Marcelo did in the situation was wrong, but I also think that some of it was really right. It's hard to break these things down because they're touchy subjects where people are very innately aware of what hate, how decisive it is, all the negatives it brings into a situation. I'd like to start off by saying that I don't think Marcel is a hateful person. I think
No,
I've known him
100%.
for years. Like we've had our disagreements and we've had our agreements, but I would never consider him racist. He loves people from all walks of life and is a pretty vibrant and easygoing person.
Yep.
The paintball, at least the vocal, online presence of it, looked at it like he was supporting a Nazi. And that's another thing I guess I'd like to touch on. There are some views that Dan has that I think are very, wrong and very Nazi-like. But one thing that the world has done, at least in the US and actually in all Western civilization, has like overused the word Nazi to call anything they disagree with a Nazi.
Yeah.
And that is watered down and diluted the meaning of the word, right? So if you say like every person is a Nazi, now when you say this person's a Nazi, my first way I look at it is with skepticism, because I kind of dismiss it because it's not like you've been calling everyone a Nazi, right? Like for just not agreeing with you politically.
Right.
But, in my opinion, a lot of Dan's views are very similar to a lot of Nazi views. To use that term for him, like I know he was just on, Isaac's Paintball Nerd podcast, and he's like, well, to be a Nazi, you have to be born in Germany in the 30s or 40s. You know what I mean? Like, get a very individual.
That's what you mean by that, correct? That's what you mean by that.
But to me, it's not that. I think the way people should be using it is, are you trying to hate this certain group or are you trying to blame everything on them? Are you trying to lump them in as one collective? Are you putting hate on a group for actions of individuals? And to me, that is very similar to Nazism, right? Now, to Marcelo's credit, like I am willing to debate people on things that I think they're extremely wrong with and very, very wrong with morally. But I think people wanted one of two things from Marcelo. I think they wanted him to break course with Dan and break his relationship with him. Or I think he could have honestly even said, I don't agree with him. I don't do this. I'm doing this job for money. A lot of people work for a lot of scumbags. Anyone who works for anyone in the pharmaceutical industry, anyone who works for anyone in the government, anyone who works for 1,000 people, those are bad people too. I'm doing this as a job. Could have said either of those. I think what rubbed people the wrong way was that Marcelo kind of like was disappointed with the community's reaction. Like he waits a couple of days to respond and then gets mad that people are mad about the situation. But the people are just reacting with emotion because it's an emotional subject when you're hating people, right? And I'm not saying Marcelo's hating people because he wasn't. But they're going to react emotionally to that. And now you kind of have the flip side of that where, people are now mad because Impact parted ways with him and this and that. And people are like, why aren't we attacking Dan more than Marcelo? But this more of the story is like Dan is what he is. And that didn't change. Marcelo is what he is. And sometimes people's views on him have now changed, but he's still the same person he was too. And Marcelo's probably not going to agree with this, but like, I don't know the inner workings of the decisions Bart and Impact made to release him, but I have zero problem with that because the way I look at it, like we are employees of corporations on teams, right?
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden, whether you caused it or not, whether you did it or not, like if you are now hurting the image, the reputation, the livelihood of the people you work for, no problem.
Outside of paintball, even outside, like
and in life.
Yes.
In life, it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
So Impact getting rid of them, honestly made perfect sense to me. I think they necessarily didn't have to, but if that's the decision they wanted to make, I have no problem with it. Now, I would have a problem if the league banned him. I would have a problem if the league did that, because we're not
The league
employees
did
of
the
the
right
league.
thing.
Because we're
Said
not
you go ahead.
yeah, we're not employees of the league. We're customers, right?
Yes.
If we're playing in the NFL, we'd be employees of the NFL.
Right.
But as paintball players, we're paying to be somewhere. And I do not think, no matter what it happens, I do not feel that companies should ever limit someone for actions taking outside of that specific thing, right? So
Yeah.
if Dan came there and Marcelo was coaching Dan's team there, and he's, flying swastikas and being hateful and stuff, and the league banned him, perfect, right? That's happened there. But if you're trying to do it off of a post on social media, no matter how ill-intended or how messed up someone's thought process is, that's not right. But Impact leaving, let him go, I have no problem with. And Damage picking him up, also no problem with. I'm happy for him because he's dedicated his life to paintball.
His career's not over.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
So,
and he has the ability to do it. Now, if we want to talk about like associating yourself with people with views that you don't agree with, it's a slippery slope, right? Because there is a point in time where it's like someone can be so hateful that you shouldn't. But also, like, I really believe that in like the power of debate, in the power of in truthfulness and earnestness and the ability to change someone's mind. And if you want to try that, I'm not saying it's always going to be successful, but you can disagree with someone on, you could agree with someone on 95% of things and disagree with them on that 5%. And it could be like the difference maker where you're like, that's not worth it to be around them. But it could also be like, well, I want you to see things the way I see things, because, and this could get me canceled, I'm good, but I'm an open book. So it is what it is. I'm a skeptic at heart. I'm a contrarian at heart. I, believe in conspiracies, not all of them, but I start with a conspiracy mindset to learn the truth from that, because we've all been misled in different ways. Yeah. And this is going to sound messed up, but like a lot of what Dan has said wasn't wrong. What's wrong is the conclusion he draws from it, right?
Yeah.
Like, has Mossad done a lot of messed up things that have been negative on the entire world? Yes. Has the CIA? Yes. Has our government? Yes. Has every government? Has almost anyone in power ever done messed up things to mess up the world? Yes. So if you want to say like a lot of the things he says are completely asinine and completely wrong and are absurd. But if you want to say like, looking back at the US, like some things about 9/11, like some are straightforward, but other things like the fact that we don't have like video footage of a plane hitting the Pentagon and it just so happened to hit certain areas, like there should be questions asked about that. Now, to instantly blame it on one group of people and now hate the entire group, that's where I have an issue, right? Yeah. Like I could say like, I have problems with leadership in Israel. I have problems with leadership in the US. I have problems with leadership in Germany and Canada, anywhere across the world. Yes. But now if I hate a Canadian or a German or an Israeli or an American because of those decisions, now I'm hateful. Now I'm the problem, right? So I don't have a problem with him having skepticism, even if it's completely misguided and wrong. I have a problem with him now hating a group of people, because it's not the group of people that's the issue, right? So it's when Dan went online, and I think it was on like Facebook on one of the JT forums, and the guy's like, hey, you're a Nazi racist. Like that's someone like emotionally lashing out at him because they were hurt by something they didn't know about him, right? And now they got to see it because of Marcelo's video. It was already out there, but they got to see it. They're calling him a Nazi, right? He could be like, hey, I don't have a problem with all these people. These are the points of contention that I have. But he didn't. He called someone a Jew, right? That's hate. And that's where I have an issue.
Well, yeah. And that is the mentality of, in Dan's form, you're wrong Like, you're wrong, and I'm never wrong. That's that kind of mentality.
And that's
Like, it's
lashing
not
back at
someone
someone
that
too.
it's not someone that cares about people in general. I'm sorry. I'll say
Yeah.
it. It's someone who doesn't care about people in general. He's just saying, when he says that, like he called him a Jew, it's like, okay, so that's your slander.
Yeah.
It's like, this is your slander for people you don't like. And you're like, I see you for what you are, dude. And no offense, here's the reality. There's a difference between a war relic in history, which is
Mhm.
a thing. If it's a relic in history, that's one thing. Would you call me a Nazi because I owned a Luger and it had the swastika stamped on it,
Yeah, what if I
and
owned
you
one that my
collected it?
grandfather brought back from fighting in the Battle of the
Exactly. Or
Bulge?
you had a Reich mark,
Yeah.
because the Reich marks date back to that time. I have a Reich mark in my safe.
Yeah.
I have a Reich mark in my safe. I have a few of them right now. And those Reich marks were, what's crazy is they're a really neat coin. They were a square
Mhm.
coin, and depending on the value, they were size and what they were made of. But they have the the war eagle on them.
Yeah.
Am I a Nazi? No. Is that a piece of history? Absolutely. Because
I'll go a step further. I don't even think it has to be a piece of history. I think it has to have intention behind it, right? So if you own a piece of history, yes, that's completely one thing. But if I own the piece of history because I hate Jews, that would be wrong. It's still the same piece of history.
it's the
If
intent.
if it's not, yeah, exactly. If it's not a piece of history, right? Like, people play these like D-Day recreations and stuff like that on in paintball, right?
Yeah.
There'll be Nazi flags flying. People have that. If he built that gun to just play in that event and wasn't hateful about it, wouldn't even have a problem with the gun. That's not a piece of history, but I still wouldn't have a problem with it. I have a problem with it because based on what the things he said, I think he made it to put hatred out towards a group of people. That's
And
where
I
my issue lies. I'm just saying, like, yes, history, but to me, everything comes down to intention, where your heart lies, what you believe, how you honestly feel, and what your true intentions are.
yeah. And here's my other issue. He said in Isaacs, and I'm gonna put him on blast. You own that much money and you don't pay Marcelo, you're a piece of shit. Like
I think
you don't pay Marcelo for his time, I think you suck as a person. Like,
I
why can't you pay him?
I agree with you. I'm going to play devil's advocate because it's one of my favorite things to do.
Ooh.
And this is actually something, like, I'm not saying like I'm not a fan of Dan's opinions. I'm not a fan of that. But I gained a little bit of respect for him
He
being
stood up for him.
the person that he is. He stood up for Marcelo where he could have easily not done that. I was surprised. He went on a small paintball podcast that put up someone that I thought he would have laughed about or thrown aside after all this.
Yep.
And in that same light, I wouldn't put it past him. I think it's more believable that he is paying him and he said he doesn't pay him to put a good light on him than the other way. But I have, my mind works with a lot of skepticism. So I don't believe something when I hear it come out of someone's mouth, right?
Yeah, but if you're
Especially
willing
someone
to
like him.
say that, you have that X amount of money.
Yeah.
You can buy the women, buy the boats, buy the watch, buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you have the nerve to say, I don't pay him.
No. But that's what I'm saying. To me, you could be right, and that's scummy. If he doesn't pay him, that's super messed up because we don't make a lot of money doing what we do, and he's putting time and effort into it. I don't believe that. I have no inside knowledge on any of this. I feel like he said that to put a better light on Marcelo, because if he doesn't pay him, now he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart to help the people around them, right? I don't know, but I'm saying I don't take anything at face value from what someone says. I look at the situation and where it behooves someone to say something. And to me, he was sticking up for Marcelo there, and I give him credit for that.
I will
But
too. I will
also,
too.
also him saying that makes Marcelo look like even more the good guy than if he was taking money. Because one of people's major contentions with him was he's taking money, he's being a Nazi sympathizer. So if Dan's smart, which I think he's dumb in a lot of ways, but I also think he's smart in a lot of ways because you have to be. I mean, life's a tightrope, but it's a seesaw that you're always teetering between smart and dumb. Some decisions you make are smart and some are dumb. Every person is like that. I don't agree with a lot of he says, but like I think he's smart enough to grow his image and have these outlandish views and still be super popular and make money this way, right? So I think he's smart enough to know what to say to make the best of a bad situation for someone. Like I was really surprised he stuck up for Marcelo, and I'm happy that he did. I don't know if that helps in the paintball community that's already pretty upset about, the things he said and the things he's done. But I will say too, like most of that was abundantly, if you wanted to look anything past the surface level, none of these views are new. Like he believed all this for a long time and he's more than open to speak out about it. And I respect someone who is willing to tell their truth. I don't believe in your truth and my truth. I believe that there is a truth, but I do respect people that are willing to stick up for what they said. And like, honestly, like I think it was dumb of Marcelo not to kind of separate from him, but I grew respect for Marcelo too, because like he stood by what he believed in, and not saying that it's anything to do with the Nazi stuff, but I think he believed in the fact that like, no, you guys don't get to decide who I'm friends with, who I'm associated with. I'm not letting you decide that. And will deal with the repercussions of that. And I think Marcelo could have been a lot more out there and visible to the public and talking, on his podcast with Tyler, they talk about growing the sport, making sure you don't do anything that hurts it. And I think that was pretty contradictory to his actions.
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to stand true to that, like you have to be open when people question it. You can't hide from that. And I'm sure he had, people from Impact, people from the league, people from Dan's camp, all telling him different things, like maybe stay quiet, this will blow over. But paintball's not like the real world, right? The real world, like you could probably avoid controversy because some new controversy will happen. But in paintball, it's such a small, close-knit community that, it doesn't go away. So you can't avoid it. So my personal opinion is you have to step forward, tell the truth, your truth, what you're thinking, allow someone into your thought process and be honest about it. Because if you're not a bad person and you didn't have ill intentions, there's nothing that the honesty can hurt. So if he would have came out and been open, it would have been a lot better, but I think it really hurt him when he comes out, he's deleting bad comments on his page, not addressing them, commenting on the good comments. That's where people now put maliciousness behind you because you're not saying anything. So now all that they can do is put their own thoughts and they'll put malicious intent behind it. So I'd rather, good or bad, address a situation head on and tell people and accept the repercussions of that, because someone's going to agree with me or not agree with me and there's going to be negatives, but I'd rather they be earned than outside of that, right? Because you let people's imaginations go wild and now all of a sudden he's a Nazi, he's racist. And like I said, like I've known him for a lot of years, like we're not the best of friends, but we're cordial to each other. We have working relationships. We've never really played on teams together outside of all-star teams and Nations Cup teams and things like that. So we live on opposite sides of the country, so we don't spend a lot of time with each other. But like, I know his friend group. I know the people he sees around the world from every race, religion, creed, culture. And I don't think he's racist. I think he's a good dude, but I think he approached this situation very poorly. And I think because of that, he had repercussions. And I think he will continue to have some. But I think it's going to be very telling how he deals with them.
Yeah, that's what's going to be interesting the next event with both of those characters, right? What are we going to see? Someone's going to say something to Dan.
Yeah.
What's his going to...
I think people say stuff to him all the time. That'll be nothing. He'll just ignore him, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how Marcelo handles it because honestly, like, Marcelo is one of the most liked names was one of the most liked names on our game, highly respected. So, a lot of times when you reach that status in a sport, you get more flowers than hate.
Yeah.
And it takes a different kind of mental fortitude to perform through hate than that. So even if he goes to this event and it's 50-50, 90-10, whatever, if there's people that are going out of their way to, uh, you know, make it known how they feel about him being there or don't like what his decisions were, it's going to be tough for him to work through that. And you can use that as motivation or you can crumble under the weight of the pressure. And I'm curious to see how he deals with that because in his career, he has never been hated as far as I know. And I'm not saying the majority of people will, but he will have to deal with hate that he didn't have to deal with before. And that's a different animal.
Yep. It's going to be different for him for sure.
But I think the important thing is like, man, a lot of people suck. A lot of people suck, Hal.
That's why I have a small circle, baby.
No, but it's individuals that suck. It's individuals across anything, right?
I know. Yeah.
The problem is when you like, a lot of white people suck, a lot of black people suck, a lot of Mexicans suck, a lot of Asians suck. It doesn't matter. But a lot are good too. More are good, right? The majority are good of all races, of all creeds, of all religions, of all everything. So I think it's important to separate that. And I think it is important to call out when you see hate that's addressed towards a group because that brings nothing but more hate. Hate begets more hate. So you can not like a person, but to not like a race or a group is an issue because you have to look at people individually. You have to judge people individually. If you're, a God-fearing man, that's what God does. He doesn't go, oh, Jews are bad. White people are good. Come to heaven, go to hell. No, you look at each person. You look at their actions. You look at their intentions. You look at their heart. You look at their purity, and you judge them based on them. You judge them based on their actions. Yep. And that's fair, right? I have no problem with someone hating someone. I have a problem with people hating groups. I think the world would be a lot better place if we realized how similar we all are to each other, because we are. We're all people. Yep. Like even animals, like we're just getting through life. We're trying to meet our needs first, and then we're trying to meet our enjoyment levels, right? That's what life is. And it's important to understand that everyone's going through the same issues as you. Everyone has been brought up through different cultures, through different moral standings, through different beliefs. So yeah, you'll have different groups of people that believe things that are completely the antithesis of what you believe, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Like, get to learn them individually. That's why, like, I think one of the worst things about the internet is it allows you to meet up with people that agree with you and hate on everyone that doesn't in a very secluded, non-assuming way. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is like, talk to someone in person, have a conversation, have hard conversations with people, even people that you hate, people that you love, people that you agree with. You should have these conversations in person, hard conversations, not the easy ones. The easy ones are great to have. They're easy to have. They make no problems. You have to have hard conversations with people that you love and people that you hate and people that you don't know to really know them. And through these conversations, you can find out who someone really is. And then you can judge them based on that. But judge them. Don't judge the people that they interact with. Don't judge this. Don't judge that, right? Because people are multifaceted, have a lot of uniqueness to them. And it's important to understand that as a collective, we're all very similar, but some of us were born in different areas and learned different things, right? And when you're born in a certain area, yes, I could be born to a Christian family and grow up and convert to Islam, but your proclivity to that is much less. Where if you were born in a Muslim country, your proclivity to end up Christian is less. It happens. People convert, people change, but your situation and your environment lead to a lot of your thought process, right? So it's important to kind of separate those things and talk to people individually and really be heartfelt about it and see where they stand and break things down and talk, because sometimes they're approaching it from a completely different mindset than you approach something from. And don't allow their hate, if they have hate, to change your view of them. But also, if you just shut people out, and this is be controversial because people will say like, yeah, hate, there's no place in the world, this and that. But it's like, if you just shut someone out, that festers, that grows. They'll find other like-minded people to group up with and hate more.
Yeah.
I believe in free speech because I believe, and I don't believe that hate speech is a violation of that, because I believe it's important to get bad ideas out there, because I believe the bad ideas should be met with good ideas and be shot down and be shown that overwhelmingly they're not agreed with. If you don't allow that, not only do you have the fickleness of one administration to the next deciding what's hateful and what's not hateful, and times change things, right? If we look at something that happened 200 years ago, it wasn't hateful then, but we'd all look at it and be like, that is completely morally unjust, unsound, unfair. Times change things, situations change things. So like, the best that we can do now is allow people to spew their hateful rhetoric so that it can be met with the right morals, your morals, and allow that flow of conversation to happen so that it can be shut down. Because if not, it festers, it grows, people get more headstrong, people will go more into their corners where you know what I mean? And they'll just sit and hear their viewpoints regurgitated to them and grow steadfast in their ways, because they can't be told that they're wrong. And it is important to be able to tell someone that they're wrong and not just say, you can't say this.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Hopefully you don't think anything I said is bad. Cut it out after this.
Not at all. Raw and unfiltered. No, what you said is true. You have to meet There's the thing. Hate is not knowledgeable. When you hate a certain, like you say, all this is bad, that's not knowledgeable. You are not smart at that point. Your IQ, to me, has dropped because you can't see that there's a difference. Right? Sure. Government. Look at government. Do you think governments have the best interest for us? No. Absolutely.
And that's actually something I'd like to point out in Isaac's interview with Dan. He brought up that, an American flag gun could be seen as hateful to a lot of the world. I felt personally attacked, but he's right. It can be, but I don't care because that's not my intention behind it. My intention behind it, that I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be born here. I feel blessed to be born here. And I believe with the founding fathers' fundamentalist ideas of how a society should be ran. And I will always represent that. So yes, it can be seen as a hateful relic to a lot of the world because we've done a lot of messed up things around the world as a country, but I haven't. And I still believe in the ideals behind it.
Well, okay. I'm going to counter this. Lack of intellect, right? Lack of intellect. Do I see the Japanese flag as a hateful thing because they attacked Pearl Harbor when we were making peace talks? Absolutely not. You know why? Because those people did not make the choice. Those people didn't have the decision of this is what you need to do.
Yep.
It was the government.
Yep.
It was the imperialism.
Yep.
Do I disagree and hate Islamic people? No. Do I feel like the terrorist attacks that happened, is that those people? No. It's in that organization. It's not the people. Yeah. Do I hate? We'll date it back to freaking 1770s, dog. Do I hate the English for coming over here, overtaxing people? No.
I just hate them because they have really bland food.
They don't have great food, but
they have great Indian food.
They do have good Indian food. Fish and chips, though, over there, crushes.
It's good. Everything else, mushy peas, not for me.
No, not for me. Do I put baked beans on everything? Absolutely not. Leave that alone. What are you doing? But here's the deal. Those countries that I've talked about, Germany, do I think those people are wrong? Do I hate that country? No. And here's the reason. Because hate of a group of people is a lower intellect, and you have a small, smooth brain. And if you know me, if I call you smooth brain, that is an insult. Because here's the deal. I've been to all those countries.
And the
I've
wrinkles
been to,
make the memories.
what's that?
The wrinkles make the memories.
That's right, baby. It holds them, baby. It holds them. Holds the smarts. but here's the deal. That is dumb. That is a dumb thought process, because those people did not derive the hate.
And it
They
is
did not
easier to
derive.
it is easier to have those thoughts if you haven't really met or associated. But I've traveled all around the world, met people all around the world. And like I said, there's good and bad people every single place I've ever been. I love people every place I've ever been. And I dislike some things about people every place I've ever been. That's the individuality of people, which disappoints me about Dan even more, because like he has the money, he has the ability, and he's been all around the world too. He should understand the difference between individuals and groups.
And this,
and like, to me, might get in trouble for this too, but like I have a dark sense of humor, and I don't think in comedy anything should be off limits. Like, right? So I don't think that there's anything that you shouldn't be able to joke about. The difference is when it's a joke and when it's not a joke. Like if he was trying to be edgy and bother people by putting a Iron Eagle on something and doing it as like it would as a faux pas, but he didn't have hate behind the intentions. It goes back to intentions. Like I said, I have no issues with that. I might think it's kind of misjudged or a faux pas, but people are going to make poor decisions like that. But if you truly don't have hate behind it, I still won't have a problem with it, because I think you have to be able to poke fun at things and bring light to things to bring attention to them to get the truth out of a situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what happened.
No, I mean he blatantly describes his hate. So his intentions are for us to view and know.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's funny. Let's date this back. We'll talk about this. The war on terrorism, GWAT, global war on terrorism, right? The people that were outside of the Taliban or any kind of other associated organism of terrorists, right? Cell terrorist group or whatever. They're just a civilian, and they pick up a gun against you.
And some of them are victims to the circumstances.
They are, because they're like, if you don't, we'll kill you.
Well, not just that. It's that they were grown up taught one thing, like they're the evil in the world. This is what God wants. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. It's like if you're indoctrinated into anything, you could do a wrong action for the right reasons. And in that situation, you're a victim.
Yeah. And
that doesn't mean that you won't get the repercussions for your actions. Like, right? Like you pick up a gun against me, I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you were wrong. It means that you were guided wrong.
Yep. And that's the thing. If you ask someone that, so I'll just put it in this aspect. We've reversed the roles. We're invaded. We're being attacked. Our homeland is being the forefront of a war. Guess what? I'm probably going to stand for not probably. There's no probably. I'm going to stand for my country and go toe to toe. But
let's be even more honest with it. Let's be even more honest with it. Our country was built on insurrectionism.
Right.
We broke every rule of warfare.
We broke the mold.
And to make a country.
Yeah.
And I think our country has been a betterment for the world in a lot of ways, but it's also been a detriment in others. Right. But we had to be insurrectionists to win that war, to win the Revolutionary War. You
Right.
know, like we weren't standing line to line with the English army and winning that in any way. But we could hide in bushes, we could be in trees, we could scout differently, we could use camouflage, we could figure out ways to do that. And in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities to what they're doing. I don't agree with the logic behind it, but
Yeah. Well, and this is all
in an age of technology and in an age of information, I think it's easier to learn more and to get access to information and to find out what's right and what's wrong in the world. Back then, you were told one thing, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Well,
and you have to stick up for your people.
Well, this is the thing. There's an old saying, respect your enemies. You know why? Because you're fighting the war for the same reason on different sides. So I think hate for a group of people because of nonsense.
Yeah, you can fight against a group of people and not hate them, right?
That's right. That's right. But here's the deal. Hating a group of people because a flag or
actions
the German
of
flag,
their leaders,
you know,
or
no
actions of their leaders.
Yeah. The German flag was the German flag back in those times.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler made that flag, that new flag, the symbolism. That flag was symbolism. It wasn't the country's flag. Do I hate the German flag? No. Do I think his remark of hating a flag? I think that lacks of lower IQ.
I agree. And I think the Confederate flag is a prime example of that, because it is seen as a hateful symbolism now because of a small percentage of what it represented in slavery and all that. But it also represented a different culture, a line of individual rights and things like that. And I think when people still to this day fly it, it's wrong because of the way it's perceived now. But I don't think that's necessarily people's intentions behind it. I think
it was before those reasons stood upon.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the intentions behind it. It's like, so it might be outwardly perceived as something that it's not to the person that's doing it.
It wasn't originally a flag of hate. It went into war as a flag and was seen as that such.
It seemed it was representative of these new ideals.
Yes. And his remark on they could hate the American flag. Well, that's because you have a low IQ. Like, if you can't see, I mean, do you hate the German flag? Do you hate the
I don't hate any flag. Flags are just printed on fabric. I like ideals behind flags, and I hate ideals behind flags. But I don't hate any flag. I don't hate any group that flies a flag. Of course not.
Do you find it offensive? Do you find the Japanese flag offensive? Do you find the German?
I find very little offensive how, and that's
I know.
That's where it's hard for me to. It's where it's hard for me to relate to some people, because some people are easily offended, and I don't think that's wrong. It's an emotional reaction to a set of stimulus put upon you from a set of ideals that you grew up with, right?
Yeah.
To me, I'm hard to offend because I don't care about symbolism. I care about feelings, about heart, about intentions. So no, I'm not offended by anything. I'm not offended by poor taste jokes. I'm not offended by someone making fun of. I'll make fun of myself. I make fun of everyone because I think that's good spirited. I make fun of my friends way more than I'd make fun of someone I don't know.
I make fun of myself more than anybody.
Yeah, that's poking fun isn't. I'm just not offended in those ways. But I don't take anything away from someone who is, because it's a gut reaction. It's visceral. It's the way someone truly feels. So I don't judge someone for being offended by that. But no, the way I view the world, the way I view situations doesn't lead me to be easily offended by anything. You know, like my grandfathers both fought in World War II, one in the Pacific in the Navy and one in the Army and the ground invasions, like around the Battle of the Bulge and stuff like that, fighting against the Germans. And we're talking about kids in their early 20s having to deal with such insane situations that they should never have been put in by governments that are deciding things by bad actors that they should have never had. But I'm not offended by anything. You know what I mean? Like, you could still have something and you still poke fun at something, and that's life. I think sometimes the easiest way out of hardship is to make fun of the situation, because it's making light of a hard situation. It's bringing brevity into hardship. It's the way that you can take that first step.
No, for sure. And I get what you're saying 100%. But I guess the frustrating thing for me is the mass amount of deflection in that podcast with Isaac.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
that's
like I
what's
said, that's
frustrating with me, because, like, there's no ownership in that whole thing. I will say he stood up for Marcelo, and that is
there's a
something,
difference between
because
taking accountability of something, and there's a difference between trying to
spew words to make,
minimize, deflect blame, I guess.
yeah.
And I agree with you there. There's no doubt about that. But I also think that everyone, approaches situations in ways that minimize repercussions, and sometimes that's right and sometimes that's wrong. But I'll
I
never
mean,
judge someone for the way they deal with hardship. It's not hardship for him, so it's like I have no problem with that.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, though.
No, that's all.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the frustration, is like, if you willing to be about it, be about it. Don't hide behind words and a facade. Don't be a broken record.
I
Like,
don't think he would have, though. I think some of his viewpoints are crazily repugnant, but at the same time, I don't think he would have been hiding behind it if he wasn't trying to stick up for Marcelo more. And it's like, it's easier to speak your truth to the masses if you're the only one who's going to get the blowback. But if
so,
you're trying to cushion it for other people around you, maybe that's when you sidestep some things, and maybe that's when you're not as honest with the situation, and maybe that's when you do it. And that's giving him the benefit of the doubt, probably more than he deserves. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
yeah.
Like I said, I always approach things first the way I think about them, second with an air of skepticism, and then third, I like devil's advocate. I like hearing countering viewpoints to press, to really question my steadfastness in my beliefs. Right? I'd rather someone, and this isn't talking about this situation in general, but like when I have a firm belief in something, I'd way rather be talking to someone who's opposite of me to press that. I'd way rather argue a point that I don't believe in, so I have to analyze the things and understand the other viewpoints, the way they're coming from, to see if I actually believe what I believe, or if that was just the easy way out.
Okay.
It's just the way I look at things, and I know that everyone doesn't, but that's the way I like to approach.
No, and that's fair. And that's fair, right? Like,
any hard topic.
Yeah.
I
just don't.
Religion.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I just want to say that, I will give him benefit of the doubt. He stood up for Marcelo. I figured he would have tossed him to the wind.
Yeah, I honestly thought so too.
But
and I think we talked about this too. I said, like, man, I don't have to agree with someone to stick up for them. Like, sometimes if you're my friend, I'll stick up for you through thick and thin, but you also have to be earnest in what you're saying, and not.
You got to be true to yourself.
You got to be true to yourself, but you also have to understand how it's affecting others around you and care about that. But if you do all that, I'll stick up for my friend, even if they're wrong.
Well, I will legitimately fall on a sword and die for the people I call friends, brothers. Like, you've seen it.
And like I said, sometimes even when they're wrong.
That's right. That's right.
And that's hard. That's hard. That's a hard realization, because it's probably not right to do, but that's human nature. It's like you build bonds with people, you do things with people, you've been through thick and thin, and that's part of it. It's part of not leaving when things get tough. It's part of understanding people's deficits and their weaknesses, and then you have to be true with them afterwards, right? Like we'll dilute it down to a simple situation, right? You're in your early 20s, you're out at a bar, one of your friends does something wrong, starts a fight, like, yeah, I'm going to be on his side. But after, he's going to
We're
get
gonna
shit
have a
from me.
talk.
Yeah, he's
We're
going
gonna
to
have
get
a
shit from
talk.
me because he was wrong. But in that moment, he's not, because I'm going to stick up for him no matter how
Yeah.
wrong he was.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how I don't even want to say how I was raised, but it's just how all of my belief systems has led up and not what I think is important in life.
Yep. I mean, you might, and that's the thing, you might, with me, guarantee you, if it goes down, you've seen it. If it goes down and I'm around, I'm the first one that's always down to clown.
Yeah.
Like, I will be with my friends, and if that means death upon me, then that's okay.
And I
But,
will
and
I
then,
will always try to, and maybe not, maybe this sounds weird. I will always try to
I know where you're
diffuse.
going to go.
No, I was going to say I try to diffuse a situation first. I think I can talk my way out of a lot of things and do it. But there's
Yeah.
a point in time where that's not always the case.
Yeah.
You have to stand on your morals. You have to stand on that. But I think it's important to first try to diffuse things. And then if that can't happen, then you have to stand your ground.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was, I might stand up for you in the first ass whooping, but you might have a second one coming when it's all over for me.
Yeah,
too.
and the one you get from me might be worse.
Yeah,
You know,
it's gonna be worse.
that's the truth of the matter, and in
That's a
some
friend,
ways,
though.
that's true love,
Oh yeah,
because you can't let someone repeat their mistakes when you love them, but you also can't let someone that you don't know be their judge, jury, and executioner. Right?
that's right. Well, that's
Because
the
they're not
thing.
going to take that well from them, but maybe they should take it earnestly from someone that they love and care about.
It's gonna mean more.
Yeah.
You get an ass whooping for me, and you're my friend.
And
Guess what?
honestly,
That's gonna mean a
that's what was
lot
hard.
more.
I think in Marcella's apology, which I don't think was much of an apology, but
No.
I think that was what was hard for him, because he felt attacked. He didn't feel protected by his friends. But from his friends' point of view, I think that they felt left out in the blue about the whole situation too, and that he was making decisions without a thought of their care. So I see both sides of that too. Like, and I understand that the reactions to that are visceral. They're natural. And I understand both sides of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a double-edged sword either way you approach it, right? So, I mean, you just have to take it on the chin, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. I mean, you're gonna, at the end of the day, you're a grown-ass man. Like, the mistakes and decisions that you make are your choice. So, anyways, I mean, it is what it is. I think I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but we'll see. We'll see how it all breaks down. But I do think it would have been a disservice to not at least touch on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think a lot of people like to avoid hard subjects because it is tricky to navigate around them, because if you don't say what people want you to say, they might, attack you next. If you're gonna to touch on hard subjects, you're always gonna piss off one side.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I think it's important. Like I said, I think open discussion, open honesty, letting people know your viewpoints is important in every aspect of life. Because if you don't really know someone, then when you look up to someone or follow someone or try to emulate them, it's a facade. It's not real. Like, I'd rather my fans know my true thoughts and like me or hate me from them than just assume something about me, right? Assumptions are no good, but knowing the truth behind it and then actually having moral standing to your beliefs, that's what I'm about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good conversations tonight. We had a lot of fun. So next week, if you listen to this, I'm just going to give you a little insight. We do have a guest that is not a paintball at all. Billy has become. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, our podcast was never just about paintball. It's about,
that's right.
It's about life lessons. It's about how people navigate through decision making and processes that can make you successful in business, in paintball, in sports, in life, in any avenue that you want to do. And it's about learning people's perspectives and seeing how people grew the life that they had, and the morality that they have, and the decisions that they have, and how we're all unique individuals, and hearing stories. It's about hearing people's unique perspectives on life. So, we're 8 episodes in. So it's been paintball, and it's going to be the majority of paintball because that's a huge part of my life and your life, and it is what it is. But we're going to take every opportunity to get guests outside of it as well, because it's perspective that's important to me. And it's stories that I like to hear from different walks of life that I wouldn't have the opportunity to hear without that.
For sure. And I think Billy, his name's Billy Campbell. I'll give you a little insight to it. And I want everyone I want you to not miss this episode because it's not paintball. I will give you a little insight on Billy. Billy had a very good job, was doing really well for himself in a corporate setting. And Billy had the opportunity to go follow his passion, which is, how much does that sound like paintball? You have an opportunity to follow your passion in paintball. Are you gonna stick
I know
with
I've
your
had
corporate job?
negative. I know I've had negative monetary repercussions from choosing to follow my passions, but I've had so many positive things come out of it that I would never change a thing in the world for it.
Absolutely. And Billy is one of the biggest names in conservation and for waterfowl. Avid waterfowl hunter, as y'all know, that I'm a huge outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman. What's crazy? I think that I don't think it is my passion before paintball, even because I grew up doing it at such a young age. I went to ranch management school. I went to get a degree in that and do those things to help conservation and hunting and all that. But Billy, he is such a bright individual in this world. And I told Ryan, Billy is held to the same stature as my dad, which my dad is my hero, my best friend, my confidant. And Billy is that same stature. So I want to just I ask all our viewers and listeners that we do have to be open-minded and give this a listen, even though it's not paintball, because there's going to be a lot of great live things that are going to coincide with your lives, because we're all trying to do the same thing. It might just be in a different realm of what we're doing.
And it all kind of boils down to the old adage, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's right. And so, I'm really excited for this. I hope y'all give it a shot. It's our first special guest, truly special guest, right? Billy is just a man full of wisdom, and he's someone that genuinely cares about everybody in this world. He is someone that absolutely loves every human being. He genuinely cares about people, and we became friends over the same way I became friends with y'all, through social media. We've been on hunts. We have other trips planned.
Yes, so do a quick synopsis of what he left his corporate life for.
He went to chase his passion, duck hunting. Now Billy stands on a board that he now helps run Dr. Duck Company, which Dr. Duck is Dennis Luzier. They're based out of Tyler, Texas, and they became friends through hunting. I'm not going to tell that story.
No. I was just saying, story,
but they became friends through hunting at a early adult life stage, and now they have a business together.
And Billy they're some of the biggest names in that.
They are, yes. As far as like podcasts, social media, modern waterfowl conservationists, what's really cool is that they are now some of the biggest names in that realm. And
Yes,
so,
passion drives success.
yes, absolutely. And, they get to travel the world together and they duck hunt. Billy Campbell is also known as the Fowl Hunter, FOWL. Um, you know,
He's the
and
foul. Is he the foulman?
no, he's the
It's
Fowl.
pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
That's pretty nice.
But you know, Billy is now sits on a board that helps regulate and make decisions for conservation and hunting and do all these things, which he has now stepped into that because of his chosen path that he's done. And it's something that he loves. So now he's on a board where he gets to speak on these issues and be a voice, which, I mean, how much does this sound like paintball? Right?
Mhm.
It's
And let's not
just
get too much into it now, but
yeah,
I think that was a good synopsis. It
but
just shows
yeah,
like the passion behind things,
yeah,
the way that you can relate one thing to another that you would never have expected to relate to each
yeah,
other. And I think those things are important. And this episode was hard in a lot of ways to talk about things, but
yeah,
it is what it is. And you know, I think you'll find through our podcast, you're going to have things like this that are more poignant and more hard, and then times that are have a lot more brevity and fun and airness to it,
yeah,
and that's because that's what life is. And
yeah.
I'm
It's
excited
rowdy.
for next week, and yeah, it is rowdy,
It's
and I'm
rowdy,
excited.
man.
I'm excited for next week. I'm excited. I'm excited to just keep growing this with you, Hal, and
Me
really
too.
enjoyed the process so far. So.
Me too. And we thank all the viewers that have
Yeah.
the passion and that give us an opportunity and a chance to do this for y'all.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here without y'all. We greatly appreciate y'all.
And it is hard to grow these things. So if you enjoy this, if you get anything out of these conversations, I implore you to please share it with your friends. Like if you know someone that a conversation that we have would help, like let them know to listen to it. We're not doing this to get any monetary gain, anything like that. So we just want to get our thought process out there because I think it's important to share your stories, share your struggles, and share your successes with people. And if that can help people, all the better. So if you enjoy it, obviously subscribe, like, leave a comment, but more than anything, share it with people that you think it could help.
Yeah, for sure. Couldn't said it better. Find us on Instagram. Find us on Discord. Find us on Spotify and Podbean right now to listen
And
to.
YouTube.
And YouTube.
And then eventually we will get on Apple. It was struggling for a while, and we've kind of given up on trying for a bit, but we will get back to it. We've just been busy. And who knows, maybe we'll toy with the idea of having a producer in the future to do these things for us so that we can just have to do the fun side of things. Neither of us are crazy technologically, minded, and I'm not either, so bear with us through our struggles, and we'll keep growing and keep getting better. And as long as you guys still like it, we'll keep doing it.
That's right. I'm going to keep doing it whether you like it or not. So
yeah,
I'm here to stay. But and any feedback, we love feedback.
Yeah, it
please.
It helps.
Yeah.
We might not always listen to it, but I'd like to hear it.
I always appreciate hearing it. There's something I can always grow from it. Yep. So, anyways, thank y'all for staying tuned. I know this was kind of a roller coaster, and it was a rowdy one, but love you guys, and we'll see y'all.
Before you sound off, you got mad at me last week because you didn't ask.
Dad advice, give it to me, baby.
I haven't even thought of any, so give me a second. But I didn't want to do 2 episodes in a row. I know you would have been mad at yourself more than me.
I would have been mad at myself. Dad or life
Okay,
advice.
I'll try to parlay it from our conversation today and say, don't be afraid to express your true feelings of something, because it's important. It's how you create true bonds with people.
Love it. Love it. Sweet. So with that bidding us a farewell, we will see y'all next week. We will have that episode on, what did we decide on, Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll be
Recording
doing it on
Wednesday, and
Wednesday,
I'll have it
recording
up.
Wednesday. So, you
And
put
I'll
it up
have it
same
up.
day? Yeah.
I'll load. I always try and load it up same
Always
day.
crushing, always crushing
So,
it, Hal.
Trying to. It's easy when you're handicapped.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Hey, y'all have a great night. Love you guys. Thank y'all
And
so
if
much.
right now our schedules are just kind of varying and stuff, and we release them as we record them, like Hal said. If you guys would rather it be on a more scheduled release, let us know, and then
Yes.
we can hold things and do it like, put it out every Tuesday at 8 or Wednesday at 4 or Saturday at that. Like, let us know what would your preference be. Would it be easier to listen to us if you knew the schedule? Probably won't change the way we record things, but it'll change the way we put them out. Right now, we're putting them out as we do them, so it's not always super scheduled. But I think it keeps things the most pertinent to the time frame that we're doing. But if you guys would like it a different way, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to
do it.
Accommodate that.
Yeah, for sure. If that means easier on y'all, tell us. We can talk about it in Discord or on our Together as a Community on our Instagram page, and we are happy to oblige. Y'all just tell us what you want, and we'll do our best to give it to you. So,
Can't make everyone happy though.
We can't. We can try though.
Yes, sir.
Try.
Yes, sir.
All right. Love everybody. Good night.
Love y'all.
Catch you on the next one.